Welcome everyone to the City of Milpitas Planning Commission. Today is February 22nd, 7 o'clock. Those here in the chambers, it looks like we got a few folks in here. If you wish to make a public comment, comment cards are in the back, and you can present them to Ms. Garayuta. Those who are online, instructions for making public comment are in the agenda to get onto Zoom. So he's calling meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Commissioner Milson. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Ms. Garayuta.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Albana.
Present.
Commissioner Oswathi is absent. Chair Chuan.
Present.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
Present.
Commissioner Galang.
Present.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
Present.
Commissioner Mosen.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, conflict of interest declaration, City Attorney.
Thank you, Chair. I ask you, Chair, and each of the commissioners, whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Ms. Garayuta, would you please go down the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Albana.
None.
Chair Chuan.
None.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
None.
Commissioner Galang.
None.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
None.
Commissioner Mosen.
None.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I also ask you and the members of the Planning Commission to please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more within the last 12 months from any of the parties any of the parties who are seeking development project applications for any of the projects on tonight's agenda.
All right, Ms. Garayuta, would you please go on the roll?
Commissioner Albana.
None.
Chair Chuan.
None.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
None.
Commissioner Galang.
None.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
None.
Commissioner Mosen.
None.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect there are no reported conflicts or contributions.
Thank you, City Attorney. Next item, approval agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda for February 22nd, 2023? Commissioner Medina Ashby.
I didn't.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Galang.
Make a motion to approve the meeting.
Okay, I've got a motion from Commissioner Galang. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second from Commissioner Medina Ashby. Roll call vote. Commissioner Mosen.
Aye.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
Aye.
Commissioner Galang.
Aye.
Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
Aye.
Chair Chuan is aye. Agenda is approved. Next item, announcements. Any commissioners have any announcements they wish to make? Commissioner Medina Ashby, did you have your?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay. If there are no announcements for any commissioners, Planning Director.
Thank you, Mr. I do not have any announcements tonight.
All right, thank you. Next item, public forum. Those interested are invited to address Planning Commission on any subject not on tonight's agenda orally via Zoom webinar. Instructions are in the agenda. Speakers may provide their name and city of residence for the recording secretary's record, and comments may be limited to 3 minutes or less. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required from city staff or the Planning Commission, and no action can be taken. Planning Commission may instruct the staff to place the item on a future meeting agenda. Ms. Garayuta, do we have anyone wishing to make a public comment? And for those that are here, if you want to make a public comment not on tonight's agenda, this is the time to bring your comment card to our recording secretary.
Thank you, Chair. No one wants to make a public comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item, public hearing. Item 8.1, Planning Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first public hearing item tonight is a new industrial building located in what we commonly refer to as the Southwest Employment Area. This is the area on the west side of the 880 and generally south of Tasman Drive. Actual addresses, as you can see in the staff report, is 525 to, I believe, 575 Sycamore Drive. We have our acting senior planner, Avery Stark, here tonight to present the staff report. So I'll turn the time over to Avery.
Thank you, Planning Director. Welcome, Mr. Avery.
Thank you, Chair. And we'll wait to get the PowerPoint up. All right, thank you. All right, good evening. Thank you, Director Thomas. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, member of the public that are here in the audience and online. Next. There we go. This application you have in front of you this evening is again for a site development permit, a conditional use permit, tree removal and environmental assessment application to develop a single-story industrial building up to 50 feet in height, totaling 293,422 square feet, and associated site improvements, including new internal roadways, landscaping, and utility improvements. The proposed project also includes a request for an approval of a sign program for the entire building and its future tenants, along with a tree removal permit to allow the removal and replacement of protected trees. The application submitted pursuant to the Municipal Code Section 111057-3, which requires the Planning Commission review and approve this type of project. Next. Here we see a satellite view of the property outlined in red. The project is located in southwest Milpitas, west of Interstate I-80 and south of East Tasman Drive. The project site was used for agricultural production until the existing 3 commercial office buildings were constructed between 1982 and 1983. As shown, the existing buildings are surrounded by surface parking lots, landscaping areas, including along the perimeter of the project site on Sycamore Drive and Barber Lane, and generally surrounded by a mix of commercial and industrial uses within the area. Next. This map demonstrates the project zoning designation and the overlay district. The project is zoned Industrial Park NP with a Recreation and Entertainment RE overlay, and was within the general plan designation of Business Park Research and Development, known as BPRD. Next. I'm going to talk a little bit here about the site's configuration, vehicle access, and parking on the site. So the access to the project site will be provided via 4 driveways, 3 on Sycamore Drive, you see at the bottom of your screen, and 1 on Barber Lane on the top right. The total floor area of this proposed project, as mentioned, was 2,903,422 square feet, with a roughly 12,000 square foot office space mezzanine. And the total, which combining of mezzanine office space and then of warehouse space. So per the city zoning ordinance, the project requires a certain allotment of parking spaces, 1 parking space for every 350 square feet of office, and 1 parking space for every 1,500 square feet of warehouse space. So therefore, the project site requires 222 parking spaces, and the applicant's project meets that and goes further to provide a resulting surplus of 6 parking spaces. In addition, the project includes 52 trailer stalls, as you see at the top of your screen, and 40 loading docks right below that. The site is also accompanied with on-site bicycle parking throughout the site for on-site guests and employees of this proposed project. In addition, Hexagon Transportation Consultants, which the city sub-consulted through for our CEQA consultant, has completed a supplementary transportation local analysis for the proposed project. This analysis supplements the CEQA portion of transportation, which we'll refer to as VMT, vehicle miles traveled, mouthful, which was to review site access, on-site circulation, and impacts on other transportation modes in the area. The VMT study concluded that the site would generate 147 fewer trips than the existing conditions and satisfies the small project criteria. And as a result, the project is presumed to have a less than significant impact as it relates to vehicles miles traveled. Additionally, the analysis produced 2 off-site recommendations to offset any adverse effects on the traffic, furthering on kind of the roadway access on Tasman Drive leading to and on Barber Lane. And these recommendations for mitigation are outlined further detail in the LTA and in the VMT study and are included as conditions of approval in the resolution number 25 for this project. Next. Here we have some elevations of the project. On top, we have the south elevation as a view from Sycamore Drive, and then East Barber Lane, followed by the colors and materials that correspond with the colors within the building. So the project is designed in a modern and contemporary style. The architectural design of the building accentuates the facades along Sycamore Drive and Barber Lane using glazing and high quality finishes that wrap the building corners with colors that emphasize the public entrances along those same streets, which are visible from 880. The applicant has designed this building on a speculative basis with optimum flexibility to cater to a wide variety of prospective tenants who can build out their space to suit their needs. The proposal incorporates, again, high quality and building design so that the project meets the intent of the city's general plan goals and policies while remaining flexible to meet the market demands of the city of Milpitas. The applicant worked very collaboratively with city staff to increase the facade modulation and visual interest, as you see above on the screen. Next. So within the industrial park zone and RE overlay, although I do not prescribe a maximum building height, prior to the development of any structure that exceeds 3 stories or 35 feet in height, the Planning Commission must make findings for a conditional use permit that any such excess height will not be detrimental to the light, air, privacy of any other structure or use currently existing or anticipated in the area. The proposed building is 50 feet in height, and to assist the Planning Commission in making these findings, the shadow study was prepared and completed to demonstrate that the height of the building will not block or cast shadows onto any adjacent buildings throughout the period of the year. In addition, the building is set back further from the minimum interior side yard setbacks by 59 feet and the rear side yard setbacks by roughly 116 feet to help establish a less dominant building mass in relationship to adjacent buildings, which are further illustrated on plan set A1 and further discussed in the conditional use permit findings of this report. And the proposed design and its elements are of commensurate size with other industrial and lodging establishments nearby, including but not limited to the Element Hotel, which is 5 stories, Crown Plaza, which is 12, Langspur Landing, which is 4, Home 2 Suites, which is 5, and a Holiday Inn 4 stories. This will allow the proposed project to appropriately fit into the industrial neighborhood which it is surrounded by. Next. Here, these are the proposed development standards for the project under proposed, and in conjunction with the height increase of greater than 3 stories or 35 feet per the requested conditional use permit, the project conforms to the industrial park, MP zoning, and RE overlay and meets all of the development standards for setbacks, height, parking, landscaping. Next. The zoning code does require landscaping along the front street side yard areas of an industrial project. The landscape plan places heavy emphasis on strong street frontage, tree layout, as well as enhanced landscaping at drive and pedestrian entrances. The landscaping program includes a new public sidewalk along Sycamore Drive and Barber Lane, outdoor dining spaces, workspaces, and casual meeting areas. 211 existing trees were evaluated on the project site, and based on the trees' suitability for preservation, the arborist has recommended the removal of 111. These are primarily needed to facilitate the development of the new speculative building. Of those 111, 70 are considered protected by the city's municipal code, and those 70 trees will be replaced with 147 new trees to meet the city's requirements. Next, I'm going to go on to talk a little bit about the sign program. So the development of a sign program is required for any new industrial complex with a gross floor area of greater than 4,000 square feet, or when there are multiple tenants, in which case this building fits that need, and the Planning Commission can conditionally approve or deny site development permit application for a sign program. And the following is just a table description of the different types of signs for each of the tenants within the program, referred to figure 5 in your staff report to kind of better understand the sign locations along Sycamore Drive and Barber Lane. The property has 1,203 linear feet of public street frontage. Therefore, the program can permit up to 2,406 square feet sign area. And the applicant has proposed roughly 1,755 square feet of sign, which again conforms to the city's municipal code. Next. Here are some illustrations. The primary monument signs. There we go. The primary monument signs will have concrete bases with white painted aluminum faces, gray text for each tenant to help distinguish them against the background. And figure 6 of your staff report depicts those designs and the locations again. And then the sign program also proposes some wall-mounted tenant signs with acrylic faces. They'll be roughly 6 inches deep with aluminum channel letters with a halo lit lighting, again, to further separate them and distinguish them from the building facade. And this is further illustrated in attachment C of the sign program. Next. The applicant is also required, as a part of this entitlement, to pay for a public art fee calculated at 0.5% of all building costs at building permit issuance. The applicant must also satisfy the affordable housing ordinance for any non-residential development that is subject to payment of the non-residential affordable housing linking fee. And the project will pay the fee pursuant to Resolution 8852. And that fee will be determined at the final building permit application and collected prior to the building permit issuance. And this is just a table for your example of what roughly that estimated linkage fee will be, which is $349,940. And again, is possibly subject to change and will be officially calculated once that total gross is finalized during the building permit stage. Next slide, please. So staff has made the findings in the affirmative and recommend approval of the project. Those findings have been addressed in the resolution and discussed in the staff report as identified on the slide. Next. Talk a little bit about CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. So the project CEQA analysis was performed by the city's consultant LSA on behalf of the city and is required for any project that may have significant environmental impacts. Again, just the function of CEQA is to inform the decision makers, being this body and the public, about potential impacts, determining if those impacts can be avoided or mitigated. So on the basis of that initial study, or IS, LSA concluded that the project will not have a significant impact on the environment and accordingly have prepared a mitigated negative declaration currently in draft form for this project. The ISMND was available for public review from January 6th through February 6th of this year. One comment has been received on the environmental document and is addressed as attachment H, responses to ISMND comments. The applicant will be required to comply with the requirements of the Mitigated Monitoring and Reporting Program, otherwise referred to as MMRP, and it says Exhibit 2 to the resolution of this project. Pursuant to state law, this is a list of mitigation measures and recommendations for the project and to help identify mitigating monitoring program requirements to bring it to a less than significant impact. Next. A notice was published in the Milpitas Post on February 10th of 2023. 2 project signs were placed on the property. The project was also available to review on the Planning Department's online public forum webpage starting January 6th. Postcards were sent to roughly 380 residents or landowners located within 1,000 feet of the project site. And one comment again has been received to date and included in your packet as a part of the ISMND. Next slide, please. There we go. Therefore, staff recommends the following actions. Open the public hearing to receive comments, move to close the public hearing, approve the initial study and mitigated negative declaration with the Mitigated Monitoring and Reporting Program in accordance with CEQA guidelines, and adopt resolution number 23-003, approving site development permit number SD 22-002, site development permit number SD 22-006, conditional use permit number UP 22-008, tree removal permit number TE 22009, and environmental assessment number EA 22-004, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. This concludes staff's summary of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and we also have the applicant's representatives here as well to provide a brief presentation when allowed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stark. So you said the applicant has a presentation.
Yes.
So, okay.
So I can just start while the presentation is loaded. My name is Janet Galvez. I'm an investment officer at Prologis in our San Francisco Bay Area market. I'm responsible for the acquisition and development activities in the region. I've been working on this particular project since 2021. So it's really important for me to oversee it from start to finish. And I'm really, really excited to be here and accomplish this milestone and in front of everyone here. Sorry. Just quickly, I'd also, I guess, next slide. Got it. The next slide really emphasized my immediate team members, but I wanted to notably highlight the city of Milpitas, particularly Avery. In these projects, there's a big team. I have my internal team here, Jason Bernstein and Clay, but I really consider the city of Milpitas a part of my team. And I was pleasantly surprised when I would call Avery and he would answer immediately, which was rare. This is my 9th project in the Bay Area, and I rarely get planners to answer their phone on the first try. So really thankful for that partnership. And just kudos to Avery for being available all the time. Oh man, I really wish you guys could see my slides.
We're having technical difficulties, so hopefully we can get it pulled up shortly. Thank you.
No problem. I can keep going and then we'll go through the slides when it's ready. I'll briefly touch on Prologis and who we are and represent as a company. We're a global company, but I really like to focus on our regional presence. Our corporate headquarters is in San Francisco. However, our regional headquarters is in Fremont, and I'll let you guys in on a little scoop. We are really getting close to signing a lease to move our Fremont regional office to Milpitas. We'll actually be relocating to McCarthy Ranch. So that's going to be 16 existing jobs for development, leasing, asset management, and construction. And we're also looking to hire more into that office. So we will be new business in Milpitas at McCarthy Ranch. That's fine. Thank you. That prior one. Just again, a little bit more background. We are currently a landowner in Milpitas, not just the existing site, but we own 12 buildings currently leased to Flextronics. So given the unique real estate environment in the Bay Area, we are primarily an industrial developer, landowner. However, because we are in kind of Silicon Valley bubble, we have flex buildings such as our R&D office. We just bought Great America as well. We own malls. So very unique real estate market to be a part of. Next slide. I think, yes, this is okay. I just wanted to highlight that Prologis wants to be a pioneer in all aspects of our buildings. What's extremely important to us is sustainable design in our communities with decarbonization solutions. One example of this is we, as a global company, we made a commitment to achieve net zero emissions across our value chain by 2040. Prologis has always been ambitious in our sustainability efforts. We continue to be an industry leader by finding ways to decarbonize our operations. Most recently, we have committed to 1 gigawatt of solar generation capacity by 2025 and to be 100% carbon neutral construction by 2025 as well, and net zero for all our operations by 2030. What that means is that we design the next slide is fine. We design our buildings with particular spec design, which includes EV charging conduits and stations, high efficiency HVAC units, microgrid switchgear. We're always looking to develop the building of the future. Next slide. Next slide. I'll now get into a little bit of the specifics of the project and why we like this site in particular. So we acquired the site with 3 existing buildings that have now are fully vacant. We've been marketing the buildings as is without successfully being able to attract a tenant. And I really think that's because the improvements are obsolete and we have tenants really looking for one contiguous flexible space where they can bring in multiple operations under one roof, which is why we're deciding to redevelop the property into a 297,000 square foot industrial building. Also, what's important to us is the proximity to BART and the proximity to the VTA. However, we understand that not everyone uses public transportation for commuting. So it was also important to be close to the on and off ramp of I-880. I think when surveying our customers, they're always looking to reduce the commute time for their employees. So being proximity to 880 was key for us. Additionally, we have over 700 linear feet of freeway frontage, which we think is a unique attribute to the building, allowing a future customer signage potential along 880 visibility marketing. Next slide, please. I won't touch too much on the site plan because Avery did an amazing job at outlining the project, so we can skip this, no need to be repetitive. But I will highlight that we are achieving LEED Gold on this property, which is very unique. Most of our competitors don't do that. But again, being that sustainability is one of our key initiatives, we like to attain LEED Gold for our entire portfolio. Next slide, please. This is just the 3D rendering of what the future building would look like from Interstate 880. Focused on landscaping, high image design. We want to attract a lot of the tenants that are already in the area. So when designing the building, amenity areas, landscaping, and just visibility from the freeway was key. Next slide, please. This is personally my favorite slide. You know, we are a developer, landowner, but when I get up here and I work with staff, it's always about how do we strengthen our relationship with the cities and communities that we work in. We are a long-term owner. So we hope that this is one of many projects that we work with the city on. And so it's important that we made a significant investment in Milpitas. This project is going to be a total of $90 million once the project is complete. Also, I really appreciate my relationship with staff. I've had several conversations with Avery and then Alex Andrade, who's your economic development representative. We're constantly on the phone talking about potential tenants. What kind of tenants does the city of Milpitas want to see? Obviously, job creation is important. And so I'm constantly, pinging ideas with Alex on what kind of tenants would you like to see in this market. We also just want to revitalize the site and activate it into a thriving business center. Again, the building's currently vacant. It's been vacant for about 9 months. We also focus on high quality finish and image and design. And again, number one goal is just to be a job creator, revenue generator. Avery touched on the public art installation. Given that we do front 880, I think it's a unique opportunity to provide a unique art installation along 880 that's visible for anyone that's driving by the site. And we're more than happy to be contributing to towards the affordable housing fee. And as part of our improvements, our project, we're also making off-site improvements along Sycamore and Barber Lane. Next slide, please. Again, when I look at a new site for acquisition, we always focus on why do we want to invest here? Why do we want to be here long term? What's important for us is to be within the path of progress. And this location being that it's proximity to BART, the VTA station, we definitely think that it's going to continue to transform and grow over time. And so when we're doing long-term investment, we're not just looking at the next 5 years, we're looking at the next 30 years. So that's important for us. Milpitas is a top 10 city in the Bay Area. You're within the Golden Triangle, which is very unique for real estate. It's Golden Triangle is basically the area between 237, 880, and 101. So a lot of our customers want to be in this location. We're actually tracking 2 tenants that are looking for 250,000 to 300,000 square feet of space, but there's just no availability in the market, and they definitely want to stay within that Golden Triangle area. So that was key for us as well. And I think this is the last slide, and obviously on the amenities, which is a big reason why our regional office is going to be relocating here. That concludes my prepared remarks. So happy to answer questions. Whatever's next. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Do any of the planning commissioners have any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I have a question for this applicant.
You have your mic on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Who are the tenants and what kind of operations do you have?
Right. So we execute confidential agreements with all our clients. So I can't speak to the name specifically.
Okay.
We're looking at a tenant that's currently in the San Jose market, and they do a lot of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing fabrication for like tenants in the Silicon Valley. So they are the actual subs that are building out the TIs for some of these office spaces in the Silicon Valley.
So small manufacturing.
Local regional manufacturing, yes.
And the other tenants are
The other tenant's actually one of our existing tenants in Fremont. They are a semiconductor manufacturer.
so that's complementary to whatever's being manufactured or R&D over there.
Right, exactly. So it's an ancillary use to R&D uses.
So how many businesses are going to be under that one roof?
So the building is flexible. These requirements that I'm talking about would take the entire space. However, if the market shifts by the time we deliver the building, we can demise it down to 3 tenants potentially. But given the demand that we're seeing today, it's likely a 1-user building.
Oh, I see. So right now it's a 1-user building, but moving forward, if you see
If the market shifts, right, because we can't commit to a lease start date until the building's complete. We are under construction and we can say, the building will be complete by X date. Without having approval or permits, we're not able to make those commitments yet.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? How about you, Commissioner Albana? You have any questions? Okay.
None, Chair, for this time.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, do we also have other staff here? I see, okay, so we also have
we have Steve Chan, traffic engineer, interim engineering director. I believe we also have Arthur Belton, our deputy fire chief,
okay.
are on the Zoom call.
Right. Any other questions for any of the other staff members? Okay, Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I have a question for the staff. So you mentioned in your presentation that there were 70 protected trees
Correct.
in the that would be removed. Where are the location for those 70 trees? Are they at the
In your site plan, it's going to be under the landscape page number L1 or L2. They're generally the trees within the center concourse of that buildings where the three existing buildings are. There's a number of trees that line their kind of inner courtyards. And in order to develop the building, they will need to be removed to facilitate the new construction of the project. Then there's a few trees along some of the driveway entrances that will be removed in order to facilitate new driveway access.
So is there any way that the driveway can be built around those trees? The driveways, I understand that the buildings will have to have them removed.
I'd have to take a look at the site plan to see if there are any protected trees that are being removed because of the driveway. So 1 second. In an effort of time, I would have to respond later to that question. I can certainly get a memo through the director on that one. I just don't have the exact answer off the top of my head here.
While we're waiting, I could just interject really quickly. It is important to note that the trees that are removed that are considered ordinance size trees or protected trees will all be replaced on the site. Avery can tell us the ratio of the
so
I think it's almost 2 to 1.
It's a 2 to 1 replacement. So the 70 protected ordinance size trees, when they're 4 feet off the ground and the breast height of that tree is greater than 37 inches, requires the replacement of a 2 to 1. So they are installing 147 new trees to the site of a relatively 15-gallon size, of a average mature growth size, to then refill the site in those areas where the trees had been removed.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just wondering if we can protect some, but I just want to know the location. So I
Yes, 1 second here. So you'll look on page L1 of your plan set, and that's going to show you the proposed landscaping plan and the trees that are going to be of most important. Actually,
you don't have a.
It's in the arborist report. It's not in your land. It's not in your.
Yeah.
You'd have to review to the arborist report, which was an attachment to this staff report, which is going to have a call out and an X of all of the protected trees that are proposed to be removed. I don't know that we're able to pull up
I wish I had that
exhibit. Okay.
Yes. trees are such a, you know, asset that I had hoped we could have that present so we know where we're taking the trees out of and how we can have protect them. So anyways, all right. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Mosen. Commissioner Galon.
Yes, Avery, what happened to the existing building?
So currently, the three existing commercial industrial buildings are still there. They have not been demolished yet. But this is an application for new development, which would then coincide with a demolition permit to then construct the one new building.
So who is responsible to demolish
The applicant and their team would pull the building permits necessary to demolish, grade, to do the site improvements, to build the new building, and for all the off-site improvements associated with this project.
So they're going to build from scratch, right, after demolition?
Yep. They would demolish the three existing buildings, remove all of that debris, lightly grade the site, make any utility connections or improvements that need to be made, and then begin the construction of a new building.
Is there a committee to make sure that all the whatever hazardous on the existing building, to check if everything before they start the?
Yes, great question. So it's outlined in the MMRP. So the last exhibit 2 to the resolution are all of the on-site management requirements for safety, things that do involve any kind of hazardous materials, which there are not believed to be any. According to the LSA CEQA analysis and the phase 1 environmental study that was done, there should be, to our knowledge, no hazardous materials or remaining. But if at some point in time during excavation they were to uncover or unearth any of those materials, there are protocols and responsibilities outlined in that MMRP that would indicate the steps they need to do in order to do soil testing in order to make the next steps. So if there was to be anything found, there are a set of protocols in place for how to handle that.
So where they normally dispose this chemicals or hazardous material?
So could you repeat the question again?
Where they normally dispose those chemicals, the hazardous materials?
So based on the analysis that was done and the environmental review that was prepared by LSA, we don't believe there to be any hazardous materials on the site now or historically that would present an issue that would result in a need for further mitigation of those potential materials. If there were to be any found that were for some reason unresearched or unfound in the analysis, there'd be precautions in place to remove that soil, test that soil, determine what those chemicals or materials may be to put into place the necessary safety precautions to handle and remove them from the site.
They're proposing a new surface parking lot with the 228 vehicle parking spaces. Are these included the future tenants already?
Yeah, so the speculative building is designed with the idea that the industrial warehouse space, which is based at 1 per 1,500 square feet, and the 12,000 square feet of office mezzanine space could be used either as one full tenant, and that warehousing space is already then calculated to park out at that amount. If they were to, say, come in with a more intensive use, which is unlikely, the use case that they've presented in the parking analysis that LSA through Hexagon, our traffic consultant, has prepared as a high sort cube facility. So they have done the analysis in such a way to determine that even at its highest case use, highest and most intensive use, there is sufficient parking on site and that the vehicle transit and access and circulation around the property and to the property will be met.
About this 40 loading docks, where they're located?
On the site plan, they are located on the rear to the north end of the building. So they are shielded from the public right of way. They're kind of set back about 20 feet into the building. So if you were standing on Barber Lane looking due west, you would see the rear portion of the building where you would then see the loading docks.
So you're talking about this is big trucks are coming in and out on this.
Correct. Yep. So the site was designed, and there are pages that articulate the movement of 2 different types of semi trucks throughout the property, where they would enter on off Barber Lane or Sycamore Drive, make their route to the back, load into those loading docks, and then exit back onto Barber Lane or Sycamore Drive.
My concern is about the noise if they're coming most trucks at the same time? How the thing works?
Yeah, so the CEQA analysis and the local transit analysis were done in such a way to ensure and to understand as the current use, which is going to generate 147 less vehicle miles traveled, less trips in a day, will be a less intensive use for in terms of noise and sound and dust and debris than the previous use. Again, without knowing exactly the tenants, the applicant has gone with the most intensive use for us to study the land use under when it comes to traffic and impacts.
Mhm.
So with all of those considerations, Hexagon has still determined that there would not be a negative impact that would require further mitigation as it results to sound or air or dust or pollutants caused by the vehicle miles traveled from semi trucks, for example, or passenger cars.
I've seen some industrial offices that, like, say, 20 years old. You know what happened? Do you allow these old trucks park on the vicinity? Because I've seen those trucks that old and even use it. They just park there. Do you allow that in the future?
So on the site, that would be the responsibility of the property owner and their tenants, what kinds of trucks they use. I can't speak specifically to the age of which semi trucks they're allowed. But I do believe that there is, and Steve Chan, I know you're on, is there any there's not parking on Barber Lane, so they wouldn't be able to park on Barber Lane. And I don't believe there's parking on Sycamore Drive in front of this property either. So if a semi truck or a delivery truck is going to be on site, it would be routed to the rear of the building to make its delivery and then leave. There are also trailer parking spaces in the back where they may leave their trailer if they're unloading something.
And they park overnight. These trucks overnight.
That would be up to the determination of the applicant and how they choose to run operations at their site. They may have that truck engines parked overnight. That doesn't necessarily mean someone's inhabiting that truck engine component.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Galong.
Could I add something just really quick?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out for Commissioner Galong that this is located, one of the primary items that we look at in reviewing this type of project is its location. It is located in an area that's zoned industrial park. So the use itself is entirely appropriate. It's not a residential area, so there aren't as many concerns here with noise and traffic as the use is appropriate for an industrial park neighborhood. It's also located adjacent to the I-80 freeway, which generates itself a considerable amount of noise. And on the staff report, you'll notice in the title that there are 52 oversized parking stalls. Also in figure 1, which is the site plan, you can see those 51 large size parking stalls. Those are specifically designated for tractor trailers to park on the site. So that's part of the use permit for this project, is that if there were to be parking overnight, they're not parking in a regular parking site, but there is designated parking for those types of trucks on this site because that's the type of facility that's proposed.
Thank you, Planning Director. Any other questions from Planning Commissioners? Okay, I do note that there are 2 hands up. I know one of them is our Economic Development Director, Alex Andrade. So it looks like he maybe wants to make a comment here about it. So go ahead, Mr. Director Andrade. And you're off mute. Go ahead.
Good evening, Chair Chuan, Vice Chair Saradella, and the Planning Commission. Good afternoon, or actually I should say good evening, Alex Andrade, your Director of Economic Development and your interim housing lead. I just want to speak in support of this project. I was just looking at the general plan update, and as you know, while there's an economic development element component to it, and there is a economic development element ED13 that talks about strengthening the city's position as a premier regional location as it relates to technology and advanced manufacturing. And I strongly believe that this project will do that. As Ms. Galvez mentioned some minutes ago, we have been talking for several years about the proposed use, about potential tenants. This is a speculative project. So, and as she indicated, she signed a non-disclosure agreement, so she can't really say who the tenants, potential tenants, or tenant rather may be. But given my conversations with her for the last couple of years, I totally understand. Even before she was with Prologis, she was with Duke Realty, and she very much is keenly interested in investing in Milpitas. She obviously talked about the fact, something that is very important for us. She's looking toward a tenant that could generate revenue for the city and job producing uses. So, she mentioned the key location being known as the Golden Triangle, to which I think that's fantastic. And I think it's not just the Golden Triangle, it's a Golden City. So I just want to say I strongly support, on behalf of the Office of Economic Development, strongly support this project, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Director. Thank you, Director Andrade. Does anyone have any questions for Director Andrade or the planning commissioners? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Director Andrade.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also note that we have our building official, Bill Tott, on as well too. I see his hand is up there to make a comment about the project. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. Thank you, and good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I love the fact that they have this sustainable design concept in play. As you probably know, the Milpitas Council recently, this is, in fact, it was effective February 17th, the adoption of the all-electric and enhanced EV charging reach code amendments to our Green Building Standards Code. So also just to kind of give a heads up to Ms. Galvez and whomever is possibly coming in here as tenants, and also for the build out of the building, particularly for the EV charging for the parking spaces. I can forward you, if you'd like, the ordinance number 65.154, which has these requirements in there for EV charging and all electric requirements. This is in the Green Building Code, by the way, so it's not efficiency standards. That's why it's not in the Energy Code, these amendments. So it's essentially site development. So in and under that heading in the Green Building Code, it's been required to have all electric provisions for new construction. And I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tott. Do any of the planning commissioners have any questions for our building official? Okay, if there's no questions, thank you, Mr. Tott. I do see another hand there, Dominic Toriano. I just want to confirm he's not part of the staff. Is that correct? There's someone.
No.
Okay, so I'll allow him to speak when public comment comes around. We also have Arthur Belton, our fire marshal. Does anybody questions for him? Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions from any planning commissioners, I'm going to open up the public forum. Ms. Hirayuta, do we have anyone here present that wishes to make a comment on this particular project?
Yes, thank you, Chair. There's one person in the audience who would like to make a public comment.
Okay, and the name of the person?
Edgar Alvarez.
Okay, Mr. Alvarez, please go ahead and come forward. Okay,
Good
you have
evening,
3 minutes.
Commissioners.
Welcome. All right. Go ahead.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Edgar Alvarez. I am a lifelong Milpitian and a proud Sheet Metal Workers Local 104 member. One of the hot topic items right now is living wages. And I've discovered that living wages are plentiful, especially in the building trades. I may be at an earlier stage of my apprenticeship, but I am beginning to learn a living wage. I do feel upward mobility, and the American dream is very tangible now. I have my union to thank for that. Milpitas has a strong history with unions. Our 11th mayor, Van Grass was a representative for the UAW, helped bring Ford to Milpitas, along with Ford jobs, UAW wages, and helped create the Sun Hills community. That combination proved to be a winning combination. I'm here, I understand that union labor is considered for this project, and I would like to say that that is a brilliant idea, not only for unions but to help continue Milpitas' history with unions also. It will be built by local residents, and that those living wages will be distributed amongst them and spent locally. It's a great way to pump up our economy, especially after a terrible pandemic. I know I'm not alone in this sentiment and in believing that this is a great project for Milpitas, but it's great for creating a knowledgeable and reliable workforce for California. I'd like to thank Prologis for considering Milpitas for this project, and I would like to thank all of you for giving me an opportunity to thank and bring up the consideration for union labor on this project. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Any other public comments that's here in the chambers, Ms. Garrita?
There are no other public comments in the chamber.
Okay, how about on Zoom?
Yes, there are 2 raised hands.
Okay, let's go who the first one is.
Okay, the first one, his name is Dominic Torano.
Okay. All right, Mr. Toriano, you have 3 minutes. Actually, hold on. We got to get the clock up at 3.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. I am Dominic Toriano, a business representative with Sheet Metal Workers Local Union 104. I'm here tonight representing a few hundred Milpitas households who not only belong to my union, but also those residents who make their livings as plumbers, electricians, iron workers, and sprinkler fitters. These Milpitas households are asking you to support the staff recommendations in this important industrial project. Prologis is taking a vacant lot and making it create real value for this community. Tax revenue will be generated and over 200 permanent jobs will be created. Prologis has committed to using local construction workforce and pay them area standard wages. For Milpitas construction workers coming out of the pandemic, this is a significant community benefit. Apprentices from our local training programs will also be on this project. That means more opportunity for Milpitas youth to gain entry into a good middle-class career pathway. Prologis has been a responsible developer supporting local communities and providing great opportunities with their investments. For these reasons, we ask that you approve this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, Ms. Garrita?
Yes, there's one more comment.
Okay.
His name is Frank Austin.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Austin. You have 3 minutes, starting now.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Frank Austin, and I'm also a business rep, but from UA Local 393, plumbers, fitters, and HVAC technicians. I'm here tonight representing nearly 100 of our members that live in Milpitas, and along with the electricians and sheet metal workers, iron workers, and sprinkler fitters, we would all like to recommend that the panel here approves this project. Not only do several hundreds of our members all combined live in your area, but you're also talking about their families and friends that also live in the area. In my past time, I have worked on many of Prologis buildings, and they are a huge source of revenue for the communities that they're built in. This particular project is estimated to create over 200 jobs. That's tax revenue for the city. Those are wages earned for people that live within the community, and that is money spent in your community. Prologis has agreed to use local construction workforce, which means the people that live within your community will be working on this project. And again, those wages earned by those individuals will be spent in your community. Prologis has been a responsible developer and supports local communities by providing great opportunities for their investments. For these reasons, we ask you that you approve this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Austin. Is there anyone else on Zoom that wishes to make a comment?
There's no one else on Zoom.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dirigirdi. I realize not everyone may have filled out cards on this particular topic. Is there anyone here in the chambers that wishes to make a public comment about this particular project? Okay.
Seeing none, move to close the public hearing.
Okay, I got a motion from Commissioner Mosen to close the public forum. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second from Commissioner Albana. A roll call vote. Commissioner Mosen.
Aye.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
Aye.
Commissioner Galong.
Aye.
Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
Aye.
Chair Chuan is aye. Therefore, the public forum is closed for this particular item. All right, any last questions from any of the commissioners? I see Commissioner Medina Ashby, you have. Okay. Any last questions or any comments or deliberations they wish to, any of the commissioners wish to make? Okay. I think we got to turn the timer off there. All right. Okay. Okay. Well, I just want to say, for me as on this particular project, it's an exciting project coming here. Looking forward to, if approved, then this project definitely will bring jobs here into Milpitas, and I'm excited to hear that. And it's also using union labor as well too, and those who are local. So much appreciated there. Do I have any other comments or any motions that wish to be made? And can we put the slide with the recommendations?
Apologies. Commissioner Abana would like to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Abana.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I support that chair, that it will not only bring a lot of jobs, but I think what is also very important is the sustainability concept that it's going to bring to the city. And we welcome, of course, Prologis for even choosing Milpitas, and together we can make Milpitas really greater. So therefore, I would also like to, Chair, move for the approval of this.
Okay, so if we can put up the screen, the one slide that. Okay, right there. City Attorney, because one of them is also approved the ISMND, that also needs to be stated. Is that correct? Regarding the recommendations, because there's an adoption, but there's also approve for, and that's the third item on the bullet.
All right, so I will move to approve first the ISMND with the mitigation monitoring and reporting program in accordance with the CEQA. And also, I move to approve the adoption of resolution 23-003, approving the site development permit number SD 22-0002, site development permit number SD 22-0016, conditional use permit number UP 22-008, the tree removal permit number TE 22-0009, and environmental assessment number EA 22-0004, subject to the findings and conditions of approval.
Okay, got a motion from Commissioner Alban. Do I have a second?
Second.
And got a second from Commissioner Mosen. Roll call vote. Commissioner Mosen,
Aye.
Commissioner Medina Ashby,
Aye.
Commissioner Galan,
Aye.
Commissioner Albano,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ciardella,
Aye.
Chair Chuan is aye. Motion's been approved. So congratulations to the applicant. And thank you. All right, moving over to the next item. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. Before we move on over to the next item, there was apparently there was a during the public forum section, which was item number 7 on the agenda, that someone here wanted to make a public comment that was not on the agenda. Is that person still here?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and allow that person to make their public comment that's not on the agenda tonight, because I realize that you've had to wait here for a while. So go ahead and please state your name and where you're from, and go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Albert Lustre. I'm with Northern California Local 405 in San Jose. And I get to see, it's great to see great projects coming to the city, but we often forget to think about the workforce who's going to build them. As far as the labor, who's going to do it? What I'm here to talk about is area labor standards, which include livable wages, apprenticeship, local hire, and healthcare. The importance of having a livable wages because it helps our working men and women being able to balance wages with the current inflation that's skyrocketed in the last 2 years. Since healthcare is a necessity for all humans, we cannot have our members or community not seek medical attention because their employers does not provide any healthcare benefits. Instead, they become a burden to our system. Apprenticeship programs. It provides a pathway to minorities, women, and risk youth into the construction industry. It also gives a working class citizen the skills and a craftsmanship to build any project, and also a shot to the American dream. By hiring locally ensures that our citizens have more time to spend with their families, involved with the community, instead of commuting and spending hours and hours on the road to try to make ends meet. I would like to ask our community, elected officials, what are we doing to ensure that we are protecting our workforce by implementing area labor standards in our city? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Okay, next item is going back over to item 8 and item number 2, True Life Townhomes, Planning Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, our second public hearing item tonight is one that staff has been working with the applicant for a number of months. This is a townhome project, a residential townhome project located on South Main Street. It's a collection of permits, really. It's a site development permit, also a conditional use permit, a vesting tentative map because these will be individual parcels or individual units that are sold, and also a tree removal permit, as well as the environmental assessment. And it includes a density bonus permit as well. So the number of moving parts here, and we have a staff report by our associate planner, Christina Fung. She will be presenting remotely tonight. And I do believe that I see that the applicant is also here, and I believe they have a presentation as well. So I'll turn the time first over to associate planner, Christina Fung, and then to the applicant for a brief presentation about the project.
Thank you, Planning Director. Welcome, Ms. Fung.
Thank you. Wait a few
Apologies,
minutes.
bear with me again.
Thank you, Director Thomas, and good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, fellow staff, and members of the public. As mentioned, the item before you is a request for a development application for the True Life Company's townhomes. Apologies in advance if my voice sounds off or if I need to cough as I'm a bit sick. Next slide, please. The application is for a number of different entitlements that includes a site development permit, conditional use permit, vesting tentative map, density bonus permit, tree removal permit, and environmental assessment to allow the demolition of one multi-tenant commercial and office building, the removal and replacement of 13 ordinance-sized trees in order to develop 57 townhome condominiums, and plant up to 157 new trees on the same site at 612 South Main Street. The development will consist of 9 multifamily residential buildings up to 37 feet and 3 stories in height, with 123 vehicle parking spaces and associated site improvements on a 2.35 acre site. The developer proposes 9 below market rate units for sale, which allows them to invoke the state density bonus law pursuant to Government Code Section 65915 and Senate Bill 330, also known as the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. By invoking the state density bonus law and SB 330, the developer is eligible for concessions, waivers, and parking standards that are different than the city standards. This picture is a rendering of the proposed project facing South Main Street. Next slide, please. And here we see the satellite view of both lots outlined in red. The site is located on the east side of South Main Street and west of Hammond Way. The project site is a combination of 2 adjacent parcels. The northern parcel is 600 South Main Street, and the one to the south is 612 to 650 South Main Street. The parcel at 600 South Main Street is vacant, and the adjacent parcel to the south is developed with a partial 2-story multi-tenant commercial and office building with approximately 27,500 square feet of space. At present, the building is occupied with a mix of tenants, including a Montessori school, a piano and guitar lesson shop, a gymnastics center, and a real estate office. Most of these tenants or similar uses have operated at this location since the building was completed in 1985. Next slide, please. And this map demonstrates the project site zoning designation. The project properties are located in the Midtown Specific Plan area and will be in the future rebranded Midtown Gateway Specific Plan area. The project is located in the mixed-use zoning district, represented in the light purple color. The site is surrounded by other mixed-use zone properties, creating a complementary use and development style of what is being proposed. Next slide, please. The project requires a site development permit to develop the 57 townhome residential units. In total, the project would include 57 units that are all 3-story, 3-bedroom units. All of the units will either have a 3 or 3.5 bathroom configuration and are attached townhomes in 9 buildings around the site as shown. The density required of the mixed-use district in the Midtown Specific Plan is 21 to 30 dwelling units per acre. As the project proposes 57 townhomes on 2.35 acres, the project meets the density requirement by proposing 24.2 dwelling units per acre. The project also includes site improvements like guest parking, internal driveways to access the parking garages, 157 new trees, a private park amenity, and landscape buffers along South Main Street. Next slide, please. The project also includes a vesting tentative map, which can only be approved via conditional use permit. The tentative map will allow the developer to subdivide the units into condominiums where they will be made for sale. Unlike fee simple ownership, condominium ownership means that the owner has individual title to the inside space of their unit, but all the owners will have undivided interest in the remainder of the property, which will be managed by a homeowners association. Because the subdivision is more than 5 residential units, the City Council has final decision on the project with a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. Next slide, please. The project also includes a density bonus permit, which is allowed for projects that incorporate affordable housing units. The City of Milpitas, via our Affordable Housing Ordinance, requires all developers incorporate up to 15% of their total units as affordable units also known as below market rate or BMR units. The image here represents all 57 townhomes. 15% of 57 units is 8.55 units, and the developer has proposed to develop 9 BMR units as identified as the townhomes with red dots on this slide. The distribution is further detailed in the staff report on pages 19 and 20. Since the city has an affordable housing ordinance, which has a greater percentage of affordable housing than state density bonus law requires, the developer is automatically granted state density bonus law provisions. Next slide, please. Density bonus law prohibits local jurisdictions from requiring a developer to meet certain objective design standards, like setbacks, heights, or required parking spaces, as long as the applicant or developer can demonstrate that the relief of the standard equates to an actual identifiable cost reduction. This is referred to as a density bonus waiver. Since the project qualifies for a density bonus permit, the development qualifies for the 3 proposed waivers. The developer is requesting a waiver for the front and rear setbacks and for the amount of guest parking. The Midtown specific plan for mixed-use zoning requires the front setback to be a minimum of 8 feet and a maximum of 15 feet. The developer is proposing a new front setback of approximately 20 feet for the 3 buildings fronting South Main Street. The rear setback requirement of this district is a minimum of 10 feet, and the applicant is proposing a new rear setback of 5 feet for the remaining 6 buildings. Lastly, the applicant proposes an overall guest parking reduction where the zoning regulations required 17 guest parking spaces, but the applicant is proposing 9. All reviewing departments, including building, fire, engineering, and police, have reviewed the plans with the proposed setback waivers and reduced guest parking numbers and found no public health or safety problem. As such, the city must grant the 3 requested waivers as they result in identifiable and actual cost reductions to provide for the affordable housing costs, and opposing the original setback and parking standards would physically preclude the project from being built and do not pose a public health or safety problem. Therefore, the developer qualifies for all 3 waivers under the state density bonus law. Next slide, please. In order to demonstrate the parking requirement, staff have created this table which shows the parking requirement per the Midtown specific plan and per the reduced parking ratios required under the state density bonus law. The Midtown specific plan would have required 131 vehicle parking spaces, including the guest parking. However, the state density bonus law limits parking spaces with reduced ratios and completely removes the requirement for guest parking spaces. This is all detailed in the staff report in tables 6 through 8. However, the developer still sees value in providing guest parking and proposes to include 9 guest stalls into the project, which exceeds the density bonus law standards and must be approved as they are providing the minimum amount of affordable housing units. Next slide, please. The project's design concept includes 3-story building heights consistent with existing and planned mixed-use development along South Main Street. The contemporary design includes the following colors and materials. For the roof, composition shingle. For the exterior, stucco finish with fiber cement siding, party panel siding and fiber cement textured panel with horizontal shiplap siding. There will also be elements of metal siding with 2 types of Madox brick. And regarding trim and accents, there will be bronze metal and metal railings with panel siding. For the entry door, it will be contemporary front entry doors with side light. And for the garage door, it will include a steel garage material with contemporary slim windows. Overall, the earth tone colors and materials were chosen to complement the surrounding neighborhood. Next slide, please. The project includes the removal of 13 ordinance-sized trees, which will be replaced with 157 new trees on the same site. Additional landscaping elements include a 4-foot wide concrete walkway along the pathway to each unit and around the development, as well as a private park amenity you can see slightly to the right of the middle of the project site. That includes a pergola, the mailbox station, bicycle racks, up to 12 bikes, picnic tables and benches, a playground with synthetic turf and a concrete band, and various trees and landscaping. Details of the private park amenity are shown on plan sheet L2. The The proposed tree plantings include, but are not limited to, various evergreen trees, such as the magnolia species, and small flowering accent trees, such as the lavender crepe myrtle, as well as multiple types of shrubs and ground covers, and special stormwater treatment shrubs and grasses around strategic places around the project site and around each building. The proposed plant palette is detailed on plan sheet L6. Next slide, please. And here on the slide, I wanted to demonstrate some of the conceptual designs and features of the structures in the private park amenity area. The pergola will provide a nice shade structure for residents to enjoy the dining tables underneath, and will be a family-friendly development with incorporation of the playground. As you can see, the color scheme and siding of the structures will match and be complementary to the residential development in the dark gray and yellow accent tones. Many of these details and other proposed features of the park are in the L sheets of the plan set. Next slide, please. The Midtown specific plan area requires all new developments to provide parkland or parkland fees to develop open space. The parkland fee is based upon the estimated number of persons expected to reside in a development per US Census definitions and the estimated value of parkland in the city of Milpitas that was adopted by City Council Resolution number 8437. The developer proposes 57 units, resulting in an estimated population of 142 new residents. Based on this population estimate, the applicant must provide 0.5 acres of parkland, equivalent to approximately $1.4 million. In the Midtown specific plan area, at least 2 of every 3.5 acres shall be provided as public parkland, and the remainder of the requirement can be satisfied by on-site private park and open space. Based on this rate, the city has determined the applicant must pay to provide 0.28 acres of park in lieu fees, equivalent to approximately $789,377.87. The remaining required 0.22 acres will be provided on-site through the private park amenity, as previously described in the earlier slides, and through the private balconies on each unit as permitted by city code. And they are including 0.24 acres of this private open space on site, which is slightly more than the remaining requirement of 0.22 acres. So they do not have to provide any more parkland acreage and will just have to pay the 0.28 acres of park in lieu fees. Next slide, please. The applicant will have to pay the following planning development impact fees: the Midtown park in lieu fee that was just previously described, and a public art fee, which equals 0.5% of the project development cost that is based on the construction valuation. Both of these fees are collected prior to building permit issuance. Other fees collected by other departments, such as engineering, are described in the attached resolution and conditions of approval as number 106. Next slide, please. A notice was published in the Milpitas Post and the city's website. A sign was placed on the property at least 10 days prior to this hearing. The city also sent out 1,821 postcards informing residents and property owners around 1,000 feet of the project site. And to date, no comments have been received on the project. Next slide, please. And lastly, the project has been carefully analyzed against state law, the Milpitas General Plan, the Midtown Specific Plan, and the zoning ordinance, which includes findings that include a compatible design with neighboring projects, consistency with the goals and policies of the Milpitas zoning ordinance, Milpitas General Plan, and the Midtown Specific Plan. For components of the project that are not consistent with the zoning ordinance, they have been rectified per the allowable waivers per state density bonus law, as described earlier in the presentation and are detailed in the staff report. The project meets the conditions of Government Code Section 66474 regarding subdivision law and the Subdivision Map Act. Next slide, please. The project is exempt from CEQA per Section 1332 of the CEQA guidelines, which is commonly used for infill development projects, as the project site is under 5 acres and is surrounded by existing development, utilities, and infrastructure, and will not cause any significant impacts to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, and the project site does not hold any value to endangered or threatened biological species. The prepared CEQA memorandum is included as Attachment B, and all the supporting technical studies are in Attachment C. Additionally, the project is exempt from CEQA per Section 15168, Program EIR, because the project is a residential project that is generally consistent with the build-out projections of the updated 2010 Midtown specific plan. Since 2010, only 24 residential units have been built in the Midtown area from the Milpa Townhome Mixed-Use Project at 260 South Main Street. Next slide, please. In closing, staff recommends the Planning Commission open the public hearing to receive comments, move to close the public hearing, consider the exemptions in accordance with CEQA, and adopt resolution number 23-004, recommending City Council approve site development permit number SD 22-0007, conditional use permit number UP 22-0003, vesting tentative map number MT 22-0003, density bonus permit number DB 22-0002, tree removal permit number TR 22-0014, and environmental assessment number EA 22-0005, subject to the findings and attached conditions of approval. This concludes staff's summary of the project. Thank you for your time. I'd also like to introduce Leah Beniston, Senior Vice President of Entitlements for the True Life Companies, as well as Scott Menard and Aidan Berry. Both are Executive Vice Presidents from the company who are here to help answer any other questions for the project. They have also prepared a few slides that they would like to show when you think is the right time. Ms. Thiragiri, thank you very much for your help. The slide should be in the same project folder. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fong. So I see we have the applicant. They have a presentation. Let's go ahead and have them do the presentation. So go ahead.
I'm sorry, I think we would have to unmute the applicant. However, there's still ongoing technical issues, so bear with me. Thank you.
All right. While we're waiting, does any planning commissioners have any questions for our planner or staff? Vice Chair.
Yeah, I missed it here. I was reading something. You talked about the windows in the back of the buildings. And are they like double pane or triple pane? And I believe the railroad tracks is back there also. Am I correct?
I would want to defer to the project applicant for those details. You know, typically those details about windows are analyzed during the building permit review process.
Okay, I thought you said something about the windows.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't talk about windows.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, this is Leah Beniston. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you and welcome.
Well, thank you, Chair Chuan, Vice Chair Ciardella, Commissioners, Christina, thank you for your wonderful, complete, thorough presentation. I appreciate that very much. Again, Leah Beniston with the True Life Companies. I'm here tonight with our two Executive Vice Presidents, Scott Menard and Aidan Berry. We're very excited to be here this evening. I have a presentation that very closely mimics what Christina has already presented to you, even in greater detail. So I think I'll run through these slides, leaving plenty of time for questions and answers. For those of you who may not know the True Life Companies, I'll start by indicating that this is our fifth project that we've proposed in the city of Milpitas. We're very proud to bring this to you tonight and to the city overall. In total, we've done 4 other projects in the TASP area over off of Cherub Court. And with this project, we would be bringing our total unit count up to almost 300 units, living units within the city of Milpitas. So next slide, please. Site context, it's a yellow box down there on South Main Street. I just wanted to show that we are about a mile from the BART station, about a mile and a quarter to Highway 680. And I even looked up where the new Pro Lodges project is going, and we're about a mile and a quarter to that area as well. So this project basically provides housing close to all amenities within the cities of Milpitas and close to jobs. Next slide, please. As Christina mentioned, this is an assemblage of 2 properties. and totals 2.35 acres. And I wanted to point out on the site plan here, you can see South Main Street at the bottom of the image. There are 2 points of access onto the property so that there's easy access for emergency vehicles or fire apparatus if necessary, hopefully not. But we also that's a requirement from the fire department to have 2 points of entry off of South Main Street. And then I also wanted to point out, just so it's clearer, where our guest parking is located directly adjacent to the open space. And you can see that common open space right there in the middle. And a portion of the common open space is our water quality facility. Next slide, please. This is just an example of the architecture, as Christina has already explained. The front elevations are right there on the bottom of the image, and the back elevations are above. So you can see that there's 2-car garage doors and single-car garage doors, depending on the type of unit, and front doors facing the street. Next slide, please. These are the metrics. I don't really want to read them all off to you, but I just want to point out that we are 100% compliant with the general plan, which is that density requirement of 24.2 dwelling units to the acre. And with that compliance, we were able to use SB 330 as our overarching statute for processing this project. So other than the waivers to the setback, the parking, and the other one was the front setback, rear setback, and parking, excuse me. Everything else about the project is 100% compliant with the Milpitas codes, as Christina also pointed out in her presentation. I have all the same statistics here. I just want to point out again, we do have the 15% affordable, which equals 9 homes available to moderate incomes. And this site, we're very proud that it has 6,000 square feet of park space. Again, by being our 5th project in town, this has the most ample open space on site than we've ever been able to provide. The task projects were a little tighter, and some of those open spaces weren't quite as generous. And this one, we're very proud to be able to provide this one on this site. Next slide, please. Here again are some artistic renderings of images coming into the site at the bottom. You can see where the arrows kind of where you're looking at the site plan. If you drove in off of Main Street, that's that lower entry picture. You're looking into the open space. And then the 2 other smaller pictures just indicate a street scene and a park scene. Next slide, please. That's all I have. I really believe answering your questions is probably the best use of all of our time. So please, if you have any questions for me or my colleagues, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Beniston. Am I saying your name correctly? Beniston?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions for, actually, Vice Chair, if you wanted to go ahead and ask your question to the applicant.
All righty, those back units, I'm concerned they're right up against the railroad tracks. What kind of windows? Are they triple pane or 4 pane, or what are they?
Well, while I can't rattle off their ST rating, they will be rated to block out noise and vibration. So yes, we are aware of that adjacency, and we definitely will be planning on any window facing that end that is not a fire safety exiting window will be definitely screened with an ST rating that will keep out that noise.
Okay, and then is there a wall along the property line also?
There's just a good neighbor fence. There's not a particularly, no, we didn't want to enclose this anymore. It's a very tight rear setback. It's a 5-foot setback. And so at the moment, it's just a good neighbor fence. It's not a wall.
Okay, because I have an issue with that 5-foot setback. I think it should be more. This way you can put a wall up there and prevent the noise from the railroad and BART.
Oh, could I point out one item. This is kind of an interesting aspect of this particular site, but at the back, it doesn't actually abut directly against the railroad track. Now, granted, the railroad track is still in close proximity, but at this location on Main Street, a very interesting thing that I discovered several months ago, analyzing the map, there is a mini storage project that extends from further up Main Street all the way down. And so there's actually mini storage units and a drive aisle that separate the back of this project from the railroad track. So it's again, the railroad track is there and there is noise, but there is somewhat of a buffer. It's probably about, I don't know, the drive aisle itself is probably about 15, 20 feet. And then the building itself is maybe 10 or 15 additional feet. So that provides some separation between this site and the railroad.
Yes, that's also wanted to add that there is a 10-foot wide public utility easement in the front setback. So initially the project was designed to meet all the setbacks, but because of the public utility easement and a comment by the engineering division, they did have to shift the project back slightly.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just concerned about the noise for the new residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Galong.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about that window glass. It looks wide and big to me. There's any support that can stand if there's a 7.8 earthquake? What type of, how thick the glass? You know, you should remember a few weeks ago when this Turkey and Syria earthquake. I can't imagine how that thing happened, but you know that glass window is looks too wide and too big. Do you have any support that will stand any shaking or any earthquake?
Well, I don't know manufacturers by name, but we meet all of the Uniform Building Code requirements in these buildings. And so when our plans get plan checked, it's a later date for construction drawings. We will meet all code requirements. I think your building official might be on as well, and he can answer what is required. But yes, we will meet the codes required for that.
Yeah.
Under the density bonus law, it says it's 15% of this project for affordable housing. So it means you must be a resident in Santa Clara County in order for you to apply this affordable housing. Is it correct?
No, I don't believe you actually. I don't know, Christina, do you want to answer that, or would you like me to answer that?
I believe we might have Robert M from the housing division here, but it is the BMR program is managed by our housing division within the building and housing safety department. So, you know, I'm not sure what kind of standards they follow, but they will be administered, you know, within our city's division.
So how many guest parking?
But it is based upon the Santa Clara County's AMI.
Yeah, my next question is about the guest parking. Also, each unit owner has a guest parking, correct? How many guest parking are there allowed?
There will be 9 guest parking stalls outside.
So there's no designated, like for example, unit number 3, you're allowed to park guest parking on number 2 or guest parking number 4. So anyone can park over there, the guest parking.
Yeah, yes, any guest can park in the guest parking. And one of them is a van accessible space and one is an EV space.
Is there a can they park overnight? Can they park? There's a certain time that you can park.
Well, all that will be regulated by our homeowners association. So while that hasn't been drafted yet, typically that's not one of those details. It's not encouraged to have overnight parking. I'm sure though, if you speak with your homeowners association and you have someone staying with you for several days to several weeks, you would inform your HOA, officer and then work that out directly later.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Now, Commissioner Mosen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just very excited to see this project. I like the layout. I like the garden area. I like the entry that you enter and it goes into the playground. I like the plans with the metals and the glass. So I'm just very excited. And I'm happy that the Midtown area is getting more housing. So I don't have too much question. It's through the chair to the director. I would appreciate if we can save some trees, but it seems like some trees are being taken away. Today we see a lot of trees removed, which are mature trees. And I don't know how they were located, how we can make drive through around them. This is a concern that I have. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mosen. Planning Director, I don't know if you had any comments to Commissioner Mosen's.
I'm just looking at the site. This it was mentioned in the presentation. The northern end of the project site is currently vacant, and then the southern, say 2/3 of the site is occupied by an existing older multi-tenant building. The trees to be removed are primarily around the perimeter of the existing building. They will, again, I guess as a mitigating measure, they will be replaced at a 2-to-1 ratio. There is one large tree toward the back, but I believe those will all be removed to make way for the new project to come in, and the new trees will actually be planted to complement the new use of the property. Is, you know, it's a kind of a dramatic change to go from a multi-unit kind of a commercial building to residential property. So unfortunately, the trees are removed and then replanted in an appropriate way around the new buildings.
All right, thank you, Planning
Yes,
Director.
I think they have tried to probably save as many trees as they can, but 13 ordinance-sized trees to be removed and getting replaced with 157 new trees, I think is a pretty good ratio.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Ciardella.
Yeah, I've got another question. Of those 9 guest parking, do any of them have charging stations for electric cars?
Yes,
Whether that's a requirement?
yes. There is one.
There is one.
Mhm.
Okay, and then my other question is, there's no parking on the street, correct? There's not enough room?
Correct. There's no parking on the street.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from any commissioners for staff or the applicant?
If I might clarify just one thing. Yeah, on the parking or the design of the street, just in the bigger picture, is one of the aspects of Main Street that we're looking at as part of the update to the Midtown Plan, which we now refer to as the Gateway Main Street Plan. Currently, it's correct, there isn't parking on this east side of the street. However, there is street parking on the west side of the street away from this project. And there are bike lanes.
Okay. Any other questions for staff or I know we also have a couple other folks from the city as well too. We have our building official, Mr. Bill Tott. I wonder if you had any comments, hearing some of the questions they had. Any comments?
Yes, hi, thank you, Chair. No, I've just, it was mentioned about the EV charging, and of course, now we're under the new codes, the 2022 codes and our REACH codes. So as they go forward with their plan reviews, of course, those requirements will come into play. And if there's some adjustment need to be made at that point, but as a heads up, again, it's all electric for all occupancies now for new construction and with enhanced EV charging. So I think the bigger impact possibly for this development would be the all electric aspect. So looking at the definition of what is all electric, it precludes or prohibits any kind of infrastructure for gas piping or anything of that nature on the property. So if there's gas there already, it would be capped and not usable. So again, just as a heads up to the developer, that's what's coming and what to expect in plan review. So if you have any questions I can answer at this point, I'd be glad to. Otherwise, we'll wait for your submittals.
I actually have a question for you. So there was a question earlier that was asking about the noise level going into the buildings. The question I had is, what's the acceptable rate? What is the acceptable decibels for going into a residence, and what with the railroad and also other traffic? Primarily, I'm more concerned on the railroad noise. What's the anticipated decibel level to go into the residence?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's multifaceted. So you have continuous ongoing, and then you have say an event like say a train passing by, which is not part of the ambient noise level. So ambient noise level 50 dBA as measured from the property line is typical. I haven't looked or delved into the newer requirements in our newly adopted codes, but that's been kind of a standard for a while. And then you have the, I guess, extension of that over and above for extended period of time where it can exceed the 50 decibels as measured from the property line for X number of minutes. And I don't have that information right now, but I can certainly give it to you later. But there is requirements that will be enforced, through the plan review process. And so that's kind of generally what the outline is for that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions for the building official, Mr. Bill Todd? Okay. I actually had some questions myself. I kind of wanted to go, I'm going to ask both staff and, also our applicant there. So, I kind of want to go back over the guest parking. So I understand, there's 9 in there and there's no parking on the street there. It just seems to me that there's, quite a bit of limited, parking around those areas there. So what, given that there are a lot of residents there, living in that area there already, what are some of the other solutions or other alternatives that those residents have for parking for those that are, currently living there, and for those that are, if say this project gets approved, what are the alternatives they have there? Considering, let's just say, worst case, there's, all the parking's filled up. So that's nearby. What are some of the other alternatives?
Is that a question for me? I don't know that I have that answer.
Actually, it's for you or our planning staff as well too.
Yeah, I know it's a challenging issue. The state is increasingly taking away power from local jurisdictions, and that's also, through the state density bonus law. So each unit will have a private 2-car garage, whether that's side by side or tandem. And, they are each 3-bedroom units, but, I think the intent of the Midtown area, and it's very close to, the map that Ms. Benison showed, is close to BART. We are trying to encourage more multimodal transportation in this area, whether that's, walking or buses or, other throughfares. We do want to also try to promote Milpitas Smart, which is now going to be a point-to-point service. You don't have to go through one of the virtual hubs anymore. So hopefully the intent, right, this is hopefully going to be a family-friendly development with 3 bedrooms each. So the guest parking, that can be, they are providing 9, which is less than 17, but that's only a net difference of 8 stalls. And so we are promoting, putting roofs over people's, putting roofs over, everyone's lives instead of, promoting car dependency. So It's a difficult issue, but the state overall, right? They did require zero guest parking stalls, and they are proposing 9, which is better than 0.
Okay. So each unit will have its own parking then.
Yeah, 2-car garage.
Okay. All right. Planning Director, I see you.
Yeah, I'll just add, I was looking at my map just now, and I would like to point out there is a bus stop immediately in front of this site. And it looks like the local Route 60, BTA bus 66 goes there they come every half hour. And as Associate Planner Fung mentioned, we do have Milpitas Smart, which is a local on-demand service that residents here could use. And I'll also mention that as part of the Main Street specific plan update, we are looking at, or one of the proposals that will be included in that plan will be some type of a local shuttle that would run up Main Street and then around and then back to the transit center. So we are looking at available in the future, a few different transit options for this area.
Thank you, Planning Director. And then another question I had is about the park. So is that parks open to, that's built there, open to anyone or just primarily the residents?
Well, it won't be advertised, but it's not going to be fenced off or anything. So yes, if you weren't living there, you could go there. And how we take care of that in all of our other developments is that the HOA gets insurance. So, it is a public park per se. It won't be advertised on the public trail system, but it's not fenced off.
Go ahead.
Regarding parks, I would also add, again, looking at the map, within very close proximity to this site, to the south, across the street, you have the existing O'Toole Elms Park, which runs between South Main Street and Able Avenue. And that's a very nice park, mostly for walking, but there are some amenities on that park as well. And then to the north, not too far away, you have a segment of what we refer to sometimes as the Hetch Hetchy Trail Park. In this case, it's actually, I always forget the name of that park. It's Tom Evat Park extension. That park actually goes from Main Street over to Able, and then once you cross Able, it extends all the way almost over to the 880. And again, there's walking trail, grass areas, and other amenities on that park, which is easily accessible from this neighborhood. So it's one of the great amenities of living and having this type of a project on Main Street is that there are public amenities within very close proximity.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Planning Director. Actually, that's all the questions I have for staff and also the applicant. I also want to note that we have both our traffic engineer and also our fire marshal. Do any planning commissioners have any questions for them? Okay, if there's no questions there, any other questions for? Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to open up the public forum. Ms. Dergir, I guess first, before we start, I see that we've got quite a lot of folks in here. By show of hands, how many here are planning to make a public comment? Okay. And then how many online do we have to make a public comment?
No one online would like to make a public comment.
Okay. So I think because we have so many folks in here, I'm going to, let's put the time to 2 minutes. And if there's any residents that, want to speak 3 minutes, please let me know. And, I can certainly do my best to accommodate there. So, but just mind you, we've got a lot of folks here. I don't want to make it such a late night for everybody. So thank you for everybody for coming. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Ms. Dergir Yuda, who was the first public comment that to be made.
Thank you, Chair. I must apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce your name. First, we have Nita Ichhaparik. Thank you.
Okay. While there's a lot of people with comments, a lot of us are from the same organization. So I represent the Jane Center of Northern California, which is right next to the property that is in question that we're talking about. and I'm the general counsel for the organization. And these are some of the directors, officers, members of the organization. We have quite a lot of concerns about this project. First of all, there was a comment that there's been no feedback or no comments from the public. Well, that's because we weren't even aware of this project. We only became aware of this project 2-3 days ago when we received the postcard. So first of all, I don't even think it's time to vote on this. First of all, we need time to investigate and to understand what is going to be taking place right next door to us. When we established this center, first of all, I'm a Milpitan. My family and I have lived here over 35 years. Jane Center of Northern California was developed back in the 80s. I even helped them acquire that land. So we have been part of Milpitas's history, and we're hopeful for the future with Milpitas. So this is why we want to work together on this project and understand what is going to be taking place right next to us. Many of the prior mayors have put our project or our center as a landmark area. And as a result, with this project, with 3 stories high, we're concerned about visibility, oversight. We're concerned about traffic. We're concerned about security. We're concerned about, already we've talked about parking. That is a major issue in that area. If you've never been there when one of our functions happen, we have thousands of people. We have over 6,000 members. When we have an event, over 1,500 people come out. We feed 1,500 to 2,000 people. When we have that, we need parking. And now we've got another center. We've got this housing development right next door. We are going to reach catastrophic situations. So we need to think about these things and kind of plan on it before we go ahead and pass this. We, at this point, are not ready with any detailed information because we just found out about this. But we wanted to show force here and say that we are concerned. We want you to hear our voices and say that we need time to figure out how this is going to impact us and what's going to be the issues. We're concerned about the environmental is not being looked at, and I understand about CEQA and that they fall under the exemption, but we're still concerned about it. And I think we still need to look at it from a traffic, parking, noise reduction, et cetera. We need to look at this impact. While we need housing.
All right, thank you. I allowed past 2 minutes there. Thank you. All right. Can we get the next comment, please?
They're going to give me their time.
Okay, go. I'll allow that.
I apologize. You can't cede your time. It's one public comment person.
Okay, one public comment.
I represent the whole organization.
And so I understand.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Next person.
Yes. Next, we have Nikiri Mehta.
Okay.
With all due respect to the chair, I'd request 3 minutes, please.
I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Nikunj Mehta. I'm a director of the board of Giant Center of Northern California. As you can see, we are not being represented well by the staff that has provided you a report. I'm really concerned that traffic and noise levels have not been studied, and that it is very likely that people haven't visited this center to understand what our needs are like. With all the concern I've seen about noise for the potential residents, you're probably missing the fact that 80 decibels of noise is likely to be created when there is an event, and it's going to last for hours. I do not know what the residents who will come into these units are going to think about it and what they're going to think about the city of Milpitas. But that is besides the point. I'm sure you will have to investigate at some point, and if not, you're going to see complaints later. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Jain Center of Northern California is the first Jain temple in this entire North America that holds a living deity of Jain idols in the US. It's not just a landmark structure on Main Street, it is a landmark feature for the county. Devotees from all over the world, indeed all over Northern America, and more specifically from Marin to Sacramento to Fresno to Santa Barbara and Santa Cruz, worship here. As the previous general lady mentioned, more than 5,000 Jains worship here. And we are talking about 142 residents who are going to live right next to us. We want them to have a great life, but we don't want their presence there and the friction that is going to encounter because of noise, because of traffic, to cause us to lose our religious freedoms. This is the only center we have in all of Northern California. Our founders have assiduously worked with the city to build a strong relation. Mayor after mayor has come to this center and its main events to witness how the religious community is flourishing here. Milpitas is a melting pot. Immigrants and all kinds of minority religions are practiced right there on Main Street, and they have for decades. If we are going to allow for more housing, which is all great, we know that there is a lot of housing built in Milpitas. There's not a shortage of it. But how are we supporting the needs of those who have worshipped here for decades, and they are going to now be facing friction? We talk about traffic. There have been deaths right on Main Street because people are crossing streets and because there are people who are in a rush to get to their events in Great Mall or potentially their shopping activities on Main Street. And I'm worried that not enough attention is being given to the traffic dangers that are going to ensue given limited guest parking inside the facility itself. I will probably have to leave this with saying that our religious gatherings have always been conducted safely. The fire marshal can attest to it. We have, in our own capacity, put traffic marshals to help move people from the other side of the street where parking is allowed into our community.
All right.
And I would like
have to let you
consider
finish your comment. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next comment, Ms. Dergirdio.
Thank you, Chair. Next, we have Nitin Shah.
First, I want to thank the Planning Commission for giving me the opportunity to speak here. My name is Nitin Shah. I'm the Director of the Board of Directors for Jain Center of Northern California. I don't want to repeat what everybody has said, but all those things that have been said previously are the reality of the situation. But Jain Center is growing at 20% increase in membership. That impact has not been studied by the Traffic Commission. That would cause further deterioration in the sanctity of that particular location. So my thing is that Jain Center invites or attracts people from all over the country. All over the country. They come, they use the hotels there, they go to the shopping malls, they bring revenues for the Jain Center, for the city of Milpitas. My request to the Planning Commission is, please evaluate this properly. It's not been evaluated. It's not been the impact of the traffic. There are about 10 events, major events per year, more than 15 minor events. And when I say minor, 1,000 to 1,500 people are present in those minor events. They are going all throughout this year. This is going to become very difficult for residents next door. So requesting the Planning Commission to reconsider this.
Thank you. All right. Next public comment, Ms. Dergirdio.
Thank you. Next, we have Rajesh Shah.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear us. And definitely, I would like to reiterate the same concerns that everyone has been providing. And definitely the one thing I would like to highlight is the traffic. And as this is a high density project that you guys are considering, and with only single lane road, even though the 3D rendering shows like a 2 lanes on both sides, it's not that wide road. And you don't have enough of clearance for the traffic to go in and out, and only 9 parkings, like a guest parking for 57 units. What this is going to do, like it's going to definitely eat up, like you will have the guests coming in and the Jain Center next door is open. You will see like a lot of these guests like trying to eat up the parking at JCNC. So that could also be causing an issue for the JCNC members. And as you heard from Nitin Bhai, that we have like a 20% increase every year on the Jain Center membership. Like these people come for worshiping throughout the day. We are open 7 days, like morning till evening. And definitely we have to keep the gates open for the parking. And it's going to cause like a lot of trouble for the parking, traffic, and there are so many incidents. And definitely with a lot of events that we do at Jain Center, we would like to have that privacy as well as we should have that religious freedom. So definitely, I would like you guys to consider this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. All right, next public comment, Ms. Dirgiriya.
Next, we have Mitol Kasari.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can I request for 3 minutes?
Yes, you may request
Thank
3
you.
minutes. Give them the 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Mittal. I'm the current president at Jain Center. And I want to support what my colleagues have said right now. I've been on the working ground for past 2 years, doing the daily activities and supporting the community to run smoothly. And with this short notice of what we are hearing about a next door property, it's of great concern to us. And one of the biggest one is when we will do our events, we don't know how it will work out for the neighbors. And we want to be good neighbors. We have been good neighbors. And this landmark will really impact our operations, especially the crowd that is going to bring. Parking is going to be a big problem. And as we mentioned, there has been a couple of accidents already right outside in that area where the investigation is still continuing. Secondly, the safety is under concern. Recently, there has been already a couple of incidents in that same neighborhood. And with such a dense population around us, we are more concerned about our safety, our idols, which is the most important to us. Next, I want to add a few things as a local Milpitas resident. I've been in Milpitas for over 15 years. I live right opposite to the Jain Center on the condominiums, which are on Abel Street. And the train noise has been a big nuisance to us. We as a community have been complaining about it already. And one of the things I'm concerned about this new residential property coming on right behind the tracks, that's going to be really a big impact to the residents who are going to live there. So I really think that it's not a wise decision to have a community right on next to the tracks. And lastly, we request the commissioners to really think about Jain Center, who have been here for decades and decades, and really think about our community before taking any next steps. One last point that I want to make, like there are already new communities that are already on the main street. We already have 2 or 3 town-owned communities that are building. And with such new communities already coming in, we should observe how they play out, how the residents feel on that communities before adding more residential on the main street. So do consider these points before you make a decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next public comment, Ms. Dirgiriya.
Thank you. Next, we have Yokesh Papna.
Respected Chair, respected Vice Chair, all the commissioners. My name is Yogesh Bapna, and I'm also the volunteer from the Jain Center of Northern California. And right now, I'm the board chair as well. I echo the same what all my colleagues said. Importantly, I wanted to introduce who we are, who are the Jains. What is JJCNC doing here in Milpitas? The Jains is a very peaceful non-violence community. In the Bay Area, our presence is about 7,000 to 10,000. The people visit here in this center, they drive like about 60 miles, 80 miles on the weekends for the events. And so we are not only the membership body, We are members and non-members. It's open for everyone. This is not only the landmark. This is a holy place. This is a sacred place for all the Jains. And we should be proud that the Bay Area is hosting one unique temple, one unique holy faith-based place here in the city of the Milpitas. And that's what in the past, all these mayors, officers visited us and always partners with us. And we host several peaceful events all the time. I think the next door that what you're planning to planning this proposal, talking on these proposals, this is going to be a very, very, I think I would say, concern to me that it is going to block our future, our growth, all those things. That is very much important for all of us. I think you should not only consider these as the next door property. We are not commercial. We are not residential. We are non-profit. We are unique, holy place. And it is a very unique thing, very pride thing for the city of Milpitas that you host this JCNC community of 5,000 plus visitors on the regular occasions. I think my time is over, but if you allow me one more minute, I wanted to introduce one more item that I have seen it here, but it's up to you.
I'll allow you just to make your one last comment.
Thank you. The second part I wanted to introduce here is that how notorious this street is in last 5 years. You go back and check the records. People died on the road just with the accidents. There is no parking. So many the faith-based facilities are there in the main street, and they don't have parking. City should think about it, that how to develop and how to host these holy based non-profit minorities communities here, so that they can we can work together and grow together.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Ms. Dergarita. Next public comment.
Thank you. Next, we have Rahul Parekh.
Hi, I'm Rahul. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my opinions here. I'm a vice president for facilities. So that means at JCNC, that means I'm responsible for parking, the facility, the health of the structure and such. The key area point I want to bring up first is a concern around parking. Like whenever we have events over the weekends, parking is a current challenge we run into. With this additional townhouse coming next door with only limited 9 guest parking, this is going to be an even bigger challenge for parking. Now, if you can imagine, the people staying there, they might have guests over the weekends especially, and that's when we have our event. It will really eat into the parking we use on the side of the street, and it's going to make even larger problems for us. Another one is the noise. Like when we have events, there is some noise on the outside part of the property we have, and it will certainly cause disruptions for the residents of the property next door. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want to have adversarial relationship with our neighbors. And I feel like these points should be considered in the planning process. And I request that this whole process be re-reviewed.
Thank you. All right. Next public comment, Ms. Dergarita.
Yes, last we have Kurt Bavishi.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to talk about little process here. As one of our colleagues mentioned that we just learned about this project and it's at this stage, at the approval stage. But prior to that, there was a lack of communications. We were not notified I was a project manager at the city of San Francisco, and I know how the project, every phases of the project, there are public meetings, public notices, 150 radius notices, and we are just next door. And we haven't received any notices that this project is developing and progressing at this stage. And now it's already 37 feet high, and we are losing the beauty, and there are obstructions to the view. And that this temple always, viewed from the far, and then this beauty, it's gonna vanish. And then there are also, it will restrict us to do the religious activities because of the lack of, the traffic, and traffic is gonna be high. And then also there will be complaint from the next door that, oh, there are some noises, religious activities happening every time. And it will be, complaint all over. So that those religious activities gonna be very restricted too. And then Sikwa has been exempted for this project. I'm not sure why, because it may have included into the general plan, but for specific project, Sikwa should have been studied, and then traffic and noise and all other, what we mentioned, so many areas, it has to be considered. So that hopefully this will be, reconsider the project and put it on notices, and then we are given opportunities to look it again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next public comment, Ms. Garridito.
Thank you, Chair. There's no other public comments.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone online on Zoom? Oh.
No one on Zoom.
Okay. Anyone here wish to make a public comment that did not fill out a card? Go ahead and please state your name and where you're from.
My name is Sunil Mehta. Thank you. And may I request for 3 minutes, please?
3 minutes? Yes. Go ahead. Let's give it 3
Respected
minutes.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and all the dignitaries, both on and off the dais. In the year 2000, this Jain Center was inaugurated, and the mayor of Milpitas made a profounding comment at that time. This Jain Center has put Milpitas on the maps of United States. That was the comment that was made when this Jain Center was made. The Jains, we are the Jains, the peace-loving community, and the whole foundation of Jainism is about non-violence. And what I see is that cultural heritage that we are carrying as Jains has been at risk at this point. The rituals that we do, I'm a current resident, just moved in about 10 years and a half ago. I used to travel about 50 miles away, 40 to 50 miles away every week or twice a week because of the serenity that's offered in this temple. That itself is at risk with the volume of noise and traffic that will be created. Not just that, over the weekends, we provide education to continue our cultural heritage with our kids. And we have hundreds of kids that comes anywhere from 1 mile to up to 40 to 50 miles. I came for last 20 years from Foster City at least a couple of times a week. That's the kind of attraction, that's the kind of vibration this temple is providing. And I feel that just by adding a huge community next to it, that serenity, that ritualistic environment that we are getting is going to be disturbed. And I'm not sure if I'll have the same level of serenity that I get when I come here, sit in the temple, will be there when that calmness is not there. US is moving, the supply chain in US is moving very fast. The railway line is just behind. I think you have to really take a look what you are doing when the new residents are coming so close to a railway traffic lane, if the railway's overall traffic gets increased. So please take a look at all that. But as I just mentioned, there are so many kids that come over the weekend from the opposite huge condominium that are there. They just cross the road. And we had an old lady who passed away because of an accident, because she just wanted to come to this serene place and do her worship. And she just died. And that breaks our heart. And we really wanted to take a serious look at this, what it will do to the traffic. Particularly when there are big events, we have a lot of crowd that comes from far away.
All right.
So please think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right. Any other go ahead, please come up and please state your name and your residence.
Yeah, I'm Sharat Shah, and I'm the member of the Jain Center, just like everybody else here. And I don't want to repeat anything because a lot has been said already. Only thing I want to emphasize that planning commissions must have done their due diligence, but I strongly request that they take time and understand the operation of the Jain Center, how the Jain Center is getting, how the Jain Center is operated, and what is the future. Future in the sense that currently there are about 5,000 people are the member of this temple. And as somebody already said, that the growth is also quite heavy. So I strongly want to request one more time that please understand what is Jain Center and what does that mean to this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here in the chambers wishing to make, who has not made a public comment, wish to make a public comment? Okay. Mr. Garrity, I see, do we have anyone on Zoom that has come on?
Yes, there are 2 people on Zoom who would like to comment.
Okay. Who's the first one?
Chadney Shah.
Chadney Shah, okay. Mr. Shah, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Chandni, and I'm a resident of Milpitas for the past 15 years. I live with my family here, and I worship at Jain Center of Northern California. What all of my fellow community members have said, I'm not going to repeat that. What I'm most concerned about at this point is that if this construction does happen, parking is one issue, but during the construction, when my kids are at a very critical stage of learning the cultural and the religious aspects of things, we would be actually deterred away from coming to this community, to this center, because the construction is gonna create a lot of noise, lot of inconvenience, like all sorts of problems. And me with my kids wouldn't want to be there when this is happening every day. And this is happening at the time when a lot of our kids are at a critical age. So considering everything else, I think this is also one of the points that I wanted to make. Please reconsider, because we purchased our houses in Milpitas because there is Jain Center. We could have bought it elsewhere, but we are here because the Jain Center is here. And I really feel that this is taking away the one thing that drew us here from us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Garrity, you said we have one more comment online.
Yes, there's one more comment.
Okay.
Akshay Jai.
Okay, Mr. Jai, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you for giving me the time. This is Akshay Jain, and I live in the condominiums right on Able Street and Curtis. So these are the Terra Serena Luna apartments. And I also am a resident of Milpitas, and I'm very proud to say that I live right opposite to the Jain temple whenever I talk to my friends and family. And because Jainism for us is a very big thing, and this center being one of the 70 Jain temples in Northern America and one of the biggest, it draws a lot of crowd. And with this proposed housing, the main concern is the traffic, and also with the renderings which were shown by the developers, it showed a 2-lane road, which is not true. So how can we guarantee that any of the other points that were shown have been vetted and are made and are supposed to be true? Is there a process to do that? And was there enough time to review this? Because clearly one of the the lanes is itself not true. So is there any process of vetting this? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Garrity, any other comments on Zoom?
There are no other comments on Zoom.
Anyone else here that did not make the public comment here in the chambers? Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to close the public forum?
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay. Got a motion from Commissioner Mosin.
Second.
And I got a second from Commissioner Medina Ashby. Roll call vote. Commissioner Mosin,
Aye.
Commissioner Medina Ashby,
Aye.
Commissioner Galan,
Aye.
Commissioner Albana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Chair Chuan is aye. Public forum is closed. Okay. We also have a couple other folks from the city on as well too, and I'd like to hear if they have any comments, or anything, or if any of the commissioners have any questions. First person I'd like to call on is our traffic engineer, Mr. Steve Chan. Are you online?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Steve Chan, interim city engineer, traffic manager.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Steve Chan? If not, I have just some questions. Just wanted to maybe get your assessment overall on the traffic in the area where the proposed townhomes are to be built. And then maybe if you have any assessment around that.
I want to speak to the project as part of the project attachment as part of the let's see, what should I say? The Exhibit 3, Part 2 of Exhibit 3 has the trip generation for this particular project. The analysis done for this project related to traffic is based on the traffic generation comparing to the existing use, which is a Montessori school and a gymnasium in its conversion to a residential home. In that analysis, the consultant for this project determined that the existing traffic generated by the Montessori school is actually higher than the proposed residential development. So therefore, the determination from the traffic consultant is that it doesn't worsen traffic condition on the site. Therefore, there's no mitigation recommended for this project.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chan. Any other questions for our traffic engineer? All right. Well, I also want to note we have our Fire Marshal Arthur Belton is also on. Just wanted to see if any of the commissioners have any questions for our Fire Marshal. Okay. Okay. Can we get your okay, welcome, Chief Belton. Can you provide any comments on your assessment on the fire on the townhomes? If you have any comments around that.
No, as was mentioned by the presentation, we have the access that we need off of South Main Street, two ways to get in there. Obviously, we hope we never have to use that for an emergency, but we have adequate access to that area. The 5-foot setback in the back is not necessarily a problem for us in terms of our accessing those 3-story buildings.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners to? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other comments from any of the commissioner, vice chair?
Yeah, I've got a question for the city attorney or planning director. When the signs go up, is it 30 days before the project's noticed? And do the residents within 1,000 feet get a card so many days before this? So they're stating that they just saw the card last week. So if you can answer that.
I might ask Christina to mention that. I know she was responsible. There was a sign posted on the property, and yes, you're correct. Postcards were sent to residents within 1,000 feet of the boundaries of the property. Kristen, I don't know if you want to provide any additional details regarding timing of when those items were done.
Yes, the requirement from what I know of from the state requirements is at least 10 days prior to the hearing.
And
So
in
the
addition to
sign-in.
I apologize, Christina, please go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, the sign was posted, at least, I think it was at least 11 days before the public hearing. And yeah, the postcards are mailed at least 10 days before the public hearing.
And then in addition, the project is posted on all of the appropriate city bulletin boards, and then notice is published in the Milpitas Post.
Yeah, yes, and the website.
You would think that, you know, the people would get the cards a little sooner than 10 days ahead. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Wilson?
Oh, sorry. That was my question too, Chair.
Okay.
I wanted a clarification regarding that.
Yeah, so these are typically most standards from most cities I've worked at. It's the minimum state standard. And typically it is difficult because there is so much backtracking from all these preparation dates where we have to coordinate with other companies or the review process to get the notice out. So we do prepare these, but it is difficult to meet these timelines because we do have to, you know, coordinate with so many other departments or companies to get these items out in time.
So did anybody reach back to you?
I personally did not receive any comments.
I should add too that we always notice these public hearings in the Milpitas Post or within local news well before the hearing date. So that was also done. And I do know that the plans and the project description of this project have been available on the city's website on the planning department page for more than a month.
Yes, and there are over 200 pages of technical reports to support the secret determination. The traffic memo was on page 72, and shortly after that, there's a 25-page report on the noise. So,
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner, Vice Chair.
Yeah, does the city send these cards out, or do you have a service that does it?
we coordinate with the company to provide us the postcards, and then the city does mail these out.
Hey, I'm just curious, do you have them send you one also? This way you know it gets out on a timely manner?
So we asked them to send us the whole package, and they're cut up into postcards. So we have the whole package, and we do get like the entire list, and we do prepare the mailing list beforehand. So.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, these folks are saying that they just got it a week ago. And if you're saying it went out 10 days prior to the meeting, how do you know that happens? If they sent you one, then you would know it would be 10 days or to the planning department.
I mean, this is a difficult issue. Every city's public noticing procedures have to go through. We do eventually sometimes get the bounce back postcards if, a tenant did not receive it, but generally we do consider that the mailing list we put out does reach that address unless we get a bounce back a few weeks later.
Yeah, and we do keep those mailing lists so that we have a record of who received the postcard. And if it feels like there wasn't sufficient time, we apologize for that. We certainly would want anyone in the neighborhood, particularly a next door neighbor, to receive the postcard and be aware of the public hearing. The postcard really is a notice of this opportunity to come and speak in the meeting. So we're glad that you did receive the postcard and that you're here tonight. But again, we sometimes we get the opposite complaint. If we send the card too early, then we would have people here tonight saying, well, we missed the card because it came so early and we were doing other things, we were busy. So I don't know what the magic number is of days, but short of having that ability to know when is the best time to send a card, we follow the requirements of the law as to noticing of this meeting, as well as informing the neighbors of the project. I mean, sorry if we fall short. We do the best that we can, but sometimes we we apologize if we fell short in this case.
Any other questions, Commissioner Wilson?
I just wanted to understand from the city attorney, what are the boundaries that we can safeguard religious entities in the city that have been a landmark for the city? What can we do at this point? Because I know I've been to the Jain Center. You've invited me, and I've seen how everything functions inside. And I want to find out what are the courtesies that we can provide to protect their identity as well as the construction happening next door. What can we do at this point?
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Molson. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that agendized today is any protection for the Jain Temple. If that's something that you guys are interested in pursuing, that's something that I think we could agendize later, or perhaps send to a appropriate committee that deals with cultural issues, perhaps one of the recreations committees, to make suggestions. As far as construction goes, they'll have to follow all of the same construction procedures that would be in related to any project, which would have limitations on the time that noise can be made, the amount of noise that can be made on a given day, dust requirements. They'll have to use recycled water to ensure dust reduction, things of that nature.
Thank you, Chair.
And if it's okay, I think the project applicant would like to also make a comment.
By all means, please.
Thank you. This is Leah Beniston. So I've been listening, and I do have several comments to make and clarifications as well. First of all, I'd like to say I want to remind everybody and the speakers, this is a mixed use general plan designation. So in this zone, we're proud as residential developers to be bringing housing to commercial uses where there's other housing, there's your establishment, there's the shopping mall down the street, there's multimodal transportation options in the area. So this is where the city of Milpitas, with their gateway specific plan and the Midtown specific plan, wants to have and encourage mixed uses, and that is residential. And that is what we do for a living, is provide attainable housing. And I'd like to also remind folks that I would hazard a guess that you could have future members living in this development next to your center. So we're proud to be part of this community. We're proud to add housing in walking distance and close proximity to all these other uses. That is what's encouraged by planning principles today. And I believe that's what Milpitas is trying to do, not just in this area of a town, but plenty of other areas of town. Like I mentioned, our other projects in the TASP area. So True Life looks for places where all these mixed uses come together. As far as parking goes, our site is following state law and local laws. So we are parked appropriately for what we are putting on this site. It sounds to me potentially that the center, our neighbor, they might be getting too big for their location. So we know that we will be parked appropriately and we'll be following all rules and all accessibility. So we're not worried about our uses encroaching on their uses. And also one thing that should be mentioned about CEQA analyzes our project's effects on the environment, not the outside environment effects on our project. So anybody moving into this new 57-unit townhome facility will be given a disclosure about their surroundings. So when they go to purchase this townhome, their disclosures will indicate who their neighbors are, and they have to make that choice. So there is nothing hidden about what we're doing. We are trying to add to the fabric of this community. And as far as our rendering and being truthful, our renderings are accurate. That is actually one lane in each direction for our street, and our artist unfortunately put parking on the wrong side of the street. That's a white line indicating those cars are parked against the sidewalk in our lead slide. So that was an oversight on my part not to take the parking out of that particular area, but that is a truthful representation of one car in each direction. So our project has been very sensitive to our environment, and we have chosen this site on purpose, and we are proud to present it to the community. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer more questions if needed.
Any other questions from the commissioners? So I had a question as well for staff. Has there been a town hall meeting with members of the Jain temple, and also just the applicant, and just to kind of address some of the concerns?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, to my knowledge, there was not a community meeting or neighborhood meeting posted for this project.
Okay, and can that be something that can be included as part of the conditions of approval?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we in fact, if we want to, we can coordinate with the representative from the developer tonight. And if I know they do this sort of thing all the time. So if the planning commission would like us to hold a meeting with the folks here tonight, we can certainly do that. Ms. Benniston, I think you would be open to doing that as well, I'm guessing.
Well, I'd like to take that conversation offline with you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, that'd be something that, so a couple of things that, for anyone that's wanting to make a motion, later on, I'd actually like to see, something, number one, to, have a town hall meeting. So that must, be part of the conditions of approval, to address the concerns. And then two, one of the things that I had, also, brought up as well too, because I know that area, it can get, I realize that, there's been studies around it, but, it can get, somewhat congested. But one of the things I wanted to comment is what I was alluding to earlier was if there's any parking solutions, right? Something that, can be implemented so that, just say, like there's portions of the Great Mall. I mean, I know it's nearby, but, someplace that, people can park, and then that, we have this, I mean, I'm just thinking outside of the box right now, it's just some type of solution that can be worked out, even possibly in the town hall meeting, and something that can come up.
Sure. Could be discussed. Ironically, as we heard tonight, it's likely the large events or activities at the Jain Temple that may be causing some of that congestion in this particular area. So that's separate discussion from what we're looking at tonight. But when we say, well, is there something that we can do for parking at this site? What we have done is a full parking analysis, and we have parking standards, and our analysis shows that they meet the standard as required by the city, with some considerations that are required for the city to pass under the state density bonus law. We don't have any, the planning commission, the city don't have any discretion in those. I hesitate to call them parking reductions, it's parking considerations, but the fact of the matter is the project is parked according to the city's standards for parking at this type of a site and this type of a project at that site. And
I understand, and I do understand that it's compliant based upon all the legal requirements and what we have. What I'm asking for here is something to be looked at, not just to be compliant, but just helping the residents and essentially exceeding, going a little bit beyond for helping out. I mean, we have like this, the smart app, right? That's one thing. So something we can do for that. Is there some other way that we can help the residents? I mean, I'm not going to have a solution tonight, but I'd like to, make sure that a meeting like that happens as part of the conditions of approval.
I think the point is well taken, and what I heard in a lot of the comments is that change that is not well understood can be a little bit scary. But and the other point I wanted to make with regard to traffic impacts, and I heard a couple of comments about, has this project been properly vetted? And in my opening comment, I mentioned that staff at the city have been working for several months with the applicant on this project. And we've gone through several rounds of review and comments and meetings and back and forth. The project is thoroughly vetted by city staff, not just from the planning department, but all of the representatives that you've heard here tonight: building, engineering, traffic, fire, and housing. So yes, it's been properly vetted. And although the project wasn't analyzed in an EIR, which we would normally do for this type of project under CEQA, because it's exempt. However, the applicant is required to submit a number of analytical studies, one of which was for noise and one of which was for traffic. And all of those were also reviewed by relevant city staff. And that the staff report represents a summary of that analysis of the project according to the information that was presented by the applicant. So I just wanted to say that in response to anyone who thinks that the project hasn't been fully analyzed by the city, to see if it meets or even exceeds the city's standards for development of this type at this location. And then last thing I'll say is the bottom line is that both the general plan and the zoning and the specific plan, call for this type of use at this location. And I just wanted to point you to page 8 of your staff report, which discusses, I think probably of those three, the most significant is conformance with the Midtown specific plan. And there's some bullet points there. The purpose of the Midtown plan is to guide the development and evolution of the Midtown planning area, which includes Main Street. It's to encourage development that responds to the city and regional objectives, such as a compatible mix of residential, retail, and commercial uses. And you see that here. You will have a mix of residential in with the existing retail, and in this case, it's more of a cultural or commercial use with the Jane Center, and then reflects neighborhood considerations, which is very important to the meat of what we're talking about tonight, and then to encourage private investment in the area. And that's very important. Anyone up and down Main Street will see that it's an area of the city that for more than a decade has been a focus of and the need for reinvestment, revitalization. I don't think there's a city council meeting that doesn't go by that we don't talk about revitalization of Main Street. So it's of keen concern to the council and also to most members of the community. So those were, and I just say that those are some of the considerations that we look at for staff trying to balance this out. But just to let you know, fully vetted and presented to tonight, in a full package once it's gone through that entire process.
Thank you, Director Thomas and Chair Chuan. I just also wanted to add, this is a good point because we are also undergoing a comprehensive zoning ordinance update and also the Midtown Gateway specific plan update. So we can look into updating the thresholds for starting more public meetings before projects are going through the entitlement process. I've worked for various cities where we do require those types of meetings as the project gets started. So, as this was an application under Senate Bill 330, we can only apply the standards that were adopted at the time that they applied. And, as we know, as the state keeps applying more new state standards over the years, they are constantly taking away more parking requirements that the city can enforce, which is very difficult for all jurisdictions to, try to understand. But it's just a push and pull with the state also. And I'm not sure if Ms. Benison, you have more comments.
I think I would echo what you just said. I would like to say, since this is a recommendation to council that the planning commission is having tonight, I do want to put on record that we are not specifically, we don't really want to add condition of approval that indicates a need for a community meeting. Conditions of approval are when you are constructing and implementing a project. That's way after the fact. So this meeting is the public forum, and by law, that's what this meeting is for. And then the council meeting is the next one. So at this point, I would have to verbally object to adding a conditions of approval for a public meeting.
Wait, sorry.
Go
I knew
ahead,
there was
planning
one other
director.
thing. I'll make it real
Go ahead,
short.
planning
I tend to be
director, please. Before you comment, I need to tell the public, so public forum is closed. Apologies. All right, go ahead, planning director.
So I was going to mention that with regard to public meetings. Prior to the pandemic, we would have, as a routine, held a public meeting for this type of a project. It's kind of, over the past 3 years, we've kind of fallen out of practice of doing that. And in exchange for that, we post the plans and we have a full project description and all of the analytical details. We post those on our website and make those available. As you can see tonight, it's probably a poor substitute for having a public meeting. So I think, as Associate Planner Fung noted, as we continue to emerge from the pandemic and as we update our zoning ordinance, we will probably revive that practice of having a community meeting prior to the Planning Commission hearing. This is a recommendation item to the City Council, so we still have an opportunity between now and the council meeting, which will likely be held in March. I think we have it scheduled, and we can certainly move, and schedule some type of a community meeting for this group or anyone else who's interested in the project to provide additional input that we could then provide to the council in making their final decision.
Thank you, planning director. All right, Commissioner Medina Ashby.
I agree, because there's a lot of, I appreciate your guys' concern, but this is also concerning to me too, because our goal is to revitalize Main Street and the Metro Pacific Plan. And there's going to be a lot of growth there. And I think everybody all of the centers, the shopping centers that are there, they have enough parking. And like Leah said, your center is probably the one causing the congestion, and you guys don't seem to have enough parking in your center. And we can't be stopped at every time we want to build something with the concerns that with traffic. When I know there's a lot of traffic, we want more businesses and we just want growth down Main Street. So this is concerning to me that we're going to be stopped at every turn.
Thank you, Commissioner Medina Ashby. Commissioner Albana, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know who to address it to, if it's Ms. Fong or anybody would like to comment. This site is really zoned multi-use, which is for residential. Is that right?
Yes, it's mixed use zoning.
Okay, so whether the residence comes up now or it comes up in the future, it's going to be residence. We can't change the zoning and do it differently. So the state has mandated us, limited our parking and all of that stuff, giving us ADUs for the residential parts. But then we also have to meet our needs and our goals to provide housing. So we just have to remember that we have to go as the time goes. And as Commissioner Medina Ashby says, is we have to also look into the future as we are growing. And it's gonna be residential, whether in the near future or now. So we might as well see what we can work together and adjust and adapt to the changes for the improvement. Anyway, everything is gonna be disclosed, that there will be certain events coming in. And even that, the people coming in can also become members of the temple. So to me, why postpone? Why delay? That's all. I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Albana. Any other questions, comments?
Oh, sorry, Chair,
deliberation?
just one more comment, but
Okay, go ahead.
just echoing what some of the recent comments were saying. Yes, the Midtown specific plan did project quite a large build out. I think the details are in the resolution, but the old Midtown plan was projected to build slightly over 1,000 units. And, since 2010, there's only been 24 units built in the Midtown area. So yes, that's what some of the intent of the new gateway specific plan is trying to do, is trying to incentivize, new development and try to reinvigorate our old town. So this is hard because this is a new project we haven't seen in this area in a long time, but I think we could take this as a good learning lesson for trying to do more public outreach in the beginning.
All right, thank you. Thank you. If there's no other public or comments or deliberations, I actually wanted to just, make a comment. So, as we know that, right now, we do have, a housing crisis, and, I think it's important that we do have, the housing, but I also just, wanted to make sure that the needs of, the Jane Center is also, met as well too. There's got to be some kind of compromise, somewhere. And so that's why, one of the things I, propose is, by the way, this, planning commission meeting, this is a recommendation. It's not the final stay. This is a recommendation to the city council. And so that's one of the things I, would encourage, having, some type of community outreach, so that, there's a little bit more time to have some discussion around this. We need housing, pretty badly. And I think, those other residents can also agree as well too. We're kind of seeing, there's a lot of, you're hearing about on the news and all that. So, I'm in agreement. We are, moving forward into the future as well too. There's the area we are at is also mixed use. At the same time, I also just want to comment that, I want to be respectful of, of the Jane Center and, just make sure that, this is a religious, freedom that we have here at, we're also talking about here too. So I just want to make sure that that's taken into consideration. So that's my comment and deliberation there. Any other comments or motions or anything like that? I'm just wondering, maybe put the final screen up there.
Chair,
go
just
ahead.
One potential suggestion is this commission is an advisory board, and certainly there's nothing that would prevent this commission from both recommending approval of the project and then independently recommending that council take some action to stop parking on Main Street. Independent of that, that would certainly be within the power of this board.
Yeah, no, that's my understanding. There's it's a recommendation as well. I do see Ms. Beniston, you have your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to say, or did you just?
No, that's been city. I just want to let you know that I had wanted to have rebut, but I did that already. So
okay,
all
right.
I'm sorry, I forgot about it.
All right, thank you. So can we put the recommendations on the screen? Okay, thank you. Do I have any motions or anyone want to make a motion? Okay, Commissioner Medina Ashby.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 23-004, recommending city council approve site development permit number SD 22-0007, conditional use permit number UP 22-22003, testing tentative map MT 22-0003, density bonus permit number DB 22-0002, tree removal permit number TR 22-0014, and environmental assessment number EA 22-0005, subject to the findings and conditions of approval.
Do you also, following the city attorney's recommendation as well too, about the,
So one potential recommendation would be to independently recommend that the council independently study parking on Main Street.
you also include that as part of your motion?
Sure, I'll include that as part of my motion.
Is that sufficient? She agrees with your comment there.
If she gets a second, then.
Okay. So we got a motion from Commissioner Medina Ashby. Do we have a second?
Second.
And got a second from Commissioner Albana. Roll call vote. Commissioner Mosen.
Nay.
Okay. Commissioner Medina Ashby.
Aye.
Commissioner Galong.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
Nay, and the reasoning is the 5-foot setback in the backyard and the 5-foot good neighbor fence along where there's a park. Thank you.
And Chair Chuan is aye. So let's see, what's the vote on that? We had three nays. We have four ayes, 3 nays. So.
What about me? I didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Albana.
Yeah.
Commissioner Albana, I'm sorry.
4 ayes, 2.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, but I skipped you.
I'm sorry, attorney, aren't we supposed to also add something where we're recommending to the council to at least have and make sure we have community meetings? We can hear more what the community has to say.
No.
So Commissioner Albana, thank you for your question. My understanding of the motion that was made was that the motion was to recommend approval of the various permits as stated in the staff report recommendation section, and then to independently recommend that the city council take action to study parking on Main Street. In addition, and that study could then, of course, include community meetings.
All right, then my vote is aye.
Okay. So we have a vote of 4-3.
4-2.
Oh, okay, so I'm 4-2. And with 1 absent. So motion passes. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, new business, no items. Legalese, any person aggrieved by any final decision of any board, commission, or department head to the city of Milpitas may appeal the decision to the city council by filing written notice of the appeal with the city clerk within 12 calendar days of the date of said decision and paying the required fee. This time limit shall be strictly enforced. Next item, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Motion from Commissioner Mosen. Who's second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Galong. Commissioner Mosen.
Aye.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
Aye.
Commissioner Galong.
Aye.
Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
Aye.
And Chair Chuan is aye. Meeting's adjourned.